subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
3 of the bullet. Zoro stepped forward and said in a deep voice. Then, without further ado, Zoro walked towards Hawkeye. "Hey, who are you?" The henchman who shot Hawkeye yelled. Crack! Zoro held the Wado Ikemonji on his waist in his hand, and the 3 swords on his waist also attracted the attention of everyone present. 3 knives? Could it be? Some of the Crick Pirates' minions had cold sweat on their foreheads. I have never seen such a soft sword. Zoro looked at Hawkeye, and a beast-like smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. A sword with only power has no strength. Hawkeye turned to look at Zoro and said calmly, "Was that ship also cut open with this sword?" Zoro looked at the huge ship that was completely cut apart. "Exactly." Hawkeye spoke calmly. "I see. He is indeed the strongest." Zoro smiled excitedly. "I went out to sea just to see you." Zoro tied the turban on his shoulders on his head, representing Zoro's full strength. "What is the goal?" Hawkeye became interested. "The strongest." Zoro showed a magnanimous smile. "Oh, that's stupid." Hawkeye smiled a little. "You are free. Let's have a competition." Wado Ikemonji unsheathed his sword and pointed it at Hawkeye. "This guy is Roronoa Zoro, the master of the 3-sword style." A member of the Click Pirates shouted. "He is Zoro?" Sanji was a little surprised. This green, algae-headed guy is actually the famous pirate hunter in the East China Sea? Pirate hunter? Click's eyes narrowed. There are guys like this on that brat's ship. But the feeling that man gave him was stronger than Zoro. Click looked at Luen, and cold sweat began to appear on his forehead. What happened? Why does it feel like this man is even stronger now than before? Just standing there, the feeling is so terrifyingly strong. Especially when he saw the red and black flashes in the man's eyes from time to time. Click subconsciously lowered his head, not daring to look directly at him. How is it possible? Gasping for breath, veins popped out on Click's forehead. He is the overlord of the East China Sea. When I saw that man, I unexpectedly had an absurd feeling in my heart that I was not qualified to look directly at that man, as if I was looking up at an existence in the sky. Competition? What a pathetic weakling. Swish! There was no sign of Hawkeye's movement. The next moment, Hawkeye disappeared from the coffin-shaped ship and appeared in front of Zoro. If you were a first-rate swordsman, even without fighting, you would be able to see the difference in strength between you and me. Should I say that you are brave enough to draw your sword against me? Or is it because of your ignorance? There was no emotion in Hawkeye's eyes. Ignorance and disparity? Zoro held the Wado Ikemonji in his hand and smiled like a beast. Maybe he was a little ignorant before I met Luen, but now I have a rough idea of what is in this sea. Luffy, Luen, I'm so sorry. I have to act on my own and compete with this man before heading to the Grand Line. Zoro's eyes shone with the light of a wild beast as he looked at Rune and Luffy. Just keep walking on the path you have chosen, Zoro. The corners of Luen's mouth curled up in a domineering arc as the captain. I will support any decision my partners make. I'm right here watching you, Zoro. Luffy yelled. Luen? Could it be that King Luen? When they heard the name called out by Zoro, everyone's eyes were focused on Luen. King Luen. It's actually this man. The corners of Crick's mouth twitched. To read exciting novels, go to Falun Novel Network. Click naturally knew about the super newcomer who appeared in the East China Sea some time ago. But I didn't expect to meet you in this way. I thought he was just a guy with a name, but no substance. But when facing this man, I didn't even have the courage to look him in the face. Damn it. He is the overlord of the East China Sea. Crick gasped for breath. Luen. Hawkeye's sharp eyes looked at Luen, and feeling the momentum that was about to burst out from Luen's body, his eyes fixed. The domineering color of the king. It's interesting that in this weakest sea, there is actually a man with such a high level of domineering aura. Then, Hawkeye saw Luffy's hat again. This is the red-haired one. So that's how it is. Did the red-haired guy put his left arm on this boy? There was no expression on Hawkeye's face, but there was a wave of turmoil in his heart. When Red Hair lost his left arm in the East China Sea, it caused a great stir in the New World. It is also a huge regret for Hawkeye. Red Hair is a left-handed swordsman. After losing his left hand, Hawkeye no longer has the fun of practicing swordsmanship with Red Hair. What Red Hair said at the beginning was that his left arm was pressed against the new era. Unexpectedly, the burden fell on such an unprepossessing boy. But looking at the red and black flashing in Luen's eyes, Hawkeye's eyes fixed. Being recognized by someone with such high level of conqueror's hockey, and with Red Hair's bet, this kid's future is really worth looking forward to. Well, for the sake of the red-haired guy, let this swordsman in front of us know a little bit how vast this sea is. Squeak. While watching Zoro's ugly face, Hawkeye pulled out a small knife that looked like a fruit knife from the cross on his chest. I am different from those stupid beasts. I have to use all my strength to hunt a rabbit. I'm sorry, but I don't have a knife smaller than this. Hawkeye frowned, as if he was a little dissatisfied with using such a small knife to deal with Zoro. There should be a limit to looking down on others. Zoro was completely enraged. With Wado Ikamanji in his mouth and 2 knives in his hands, he rushed towards Hawkeye. 3-sword-style demon slash. Clang! The next moment, Zoro's 3-sword-style secret technique was easily blocked by Hawkeye using this small knife. Everyone present, except Luen, was completely stunned. That pirate hunter was actually blocked by a knife. I can't move. What on earth is happening? How is it possible? It's so far away. The sweat on the forehead kept dripping. It was clearly just one move that was blocked, but his body was unable to move. Zoro, who learned about hockey from Luen, anticipated a battle with Hawkeye. Perhaps, if the other party used hockey, he might be in a tough fight. But I never expected that the gap would be so big. Don't talk about being domineering. The other party just took out a knife. The world can't be that far away. Zoro roared, his heart completely confused, and launched a crazy attack on Hawkeye. But these chaotic attacks were all blocked by Hawkeye with a knife, walking in the garden with ease. Afterwards, Zoro was completely fooled by Hawkeye until he had no strength left. Weak, what do you carry? At the end of being strong, what do you desire? Hawkeye said calmly as he looked at Zoro, who had no strength left but still swung his sword at him, and finally collapsed due to exhaustion. You actually said that Big Brother is weak. You bastard, that man is our big brother. Seeing Zoro being fooled like this, Johnny and Joseph couldn't help but rush up to fight Hawkeye. But Luffy caught him back using the ability of the rubber fruit and pinned him to the ground. Don't interfere, Johnny, Joseph, just be patient. This is Zoro's battle. Luffy also endured it with a grin, veins bulging all over his body. Just watch carefully, Johnny, Joseph, and men like Zoro don't need sympathy. Luen, the domineering aura in his eyes almost overflowed. I absolutely cannot lose. In Zoro's mind, the agreement with Kuna, as well as the agreement with Luffy, Rune, and others appeared like a kaleidoscope. Then, the ambition is to become the world's greatest swordsman. Tiger hunting. Zoro roared. Puff. The knife stabbed into Zoro's chest. Why don't you retreat? Do you want to be stabbed through the heart? Hawkeye's eyes narrowed. He held back, and Zoro only needed to step back to avoid this injury. I don't know either. I just feel that if I back off, all the vows and promises we made will disappear. Zoro looked at Hawkeye. Yes, this is called defeat. Hawkeye said, then you can't retreat. Zoro smiled. You won't retreat even if you die. Hawkeye's gaze narrowed. It might be better to die here. Zoro showed a smile that was typical of his character. What a strong heart one must have. Would you rather die than lose? Hawkeye's eyes flashed with admiration. He put away the knife and drew out the black knife. Knight. Kid, tell me your name. Roronoa Zoro. Zoro held the 3 swords in a ring, a beast-like smile on his face. I will remember this, my long-lost warrior. As a swordsman's etiquette, I will use this strongest black sword to bury you in the sea. Hawkeye smiled. Thank you very much. Zoro held 3 swords and launched his strongest attack. 3-sword-style secret. 3,000 worlds. Puff. Blood spurted, and except for the Wado Ikamanji, the swords in Zoro's hands were directly cut off. We lost. Such a miserable defeat. Is this the strongest power in the world? Zoro silently put away the Wado Ikamanji, turned to Hawkeye, opened his arms, and exposed his chest. Do what? Hawkeye was a little surprised. The scars on your back are a swordsman's shame. Zoro laughed. Amazing. Hawkeye laughed happily. Puff. The black knife cut open Zoro's chest, causing him to fall into the sea. Zoro, after seeing the result, Luffy couldn't bear it anymore and used the ability of the rubber fruit to rush towards Hawkeye, but was easily avoided and smashed into the ruins of the Click pirate ship. Don't worry, he's not dead yet, Hawkeye said. Seeing Johnny, Joseph jumped into the sea to save Zoro. Luen jumped up and appeared in front of Hawkeye. Hawkeye's eyes fixed. Buzz. The red and black in Luen's eyes seemed to become tangible, flickering faintly in the atmosphere. A flash of red and black also appeared in Hawkeye's eyes. Conqueror's Haki against Conqueror's Haki. Wong to Wong Wong. This is my post. The Doom 2004 post views for Chapter 45. Snatching the Eagle-Eye's Luck. Great Harvest. Pre-order request. CH45. Luen. I saw with my own eyes how powerless Zoro was in the face of Hawkeye just now, and then I saw Luen actually standing in front of Hawkeye. Nami exclaimed, her eyes filled with anxiety and worry. In the East China Sea, Zoro is also a pirate hunter that many pirates with bounties of tens of millions fear. But in front of the eagle-eyed man, she was as fragile as a baby. Luen is very strong, but facing a monster like this, Nami looked at Rune's back as he faced Hawkeye, with his hands clasped in front of his heart, a look of nervousness on his face. One by one, it's really crazy. That green, algae-headed guy is the strongest in the world. He should have known the outcome before the fight. Isn't it better to just give up ambition? It's simple. It's just giving up ambition. Sanji looked at Zoro being carried from the sea to the boat by Johnny and Joseph, and then looked at Zoro's vivid example in front of him. Sanji muttered to Luen, who was still standing in front of Hawkeye. This isn't Sanji denying Zoro and Luen. Rather, he was persuading himself. Although he didn't like the green-haired guy, he was also very envious of Luen for being favored by Miss Nami. But Sanji looked at them as if he saw his own kind. That is the magnanimity of being willing to sacrifice one's life for one's ambitions and dreams. Essentially, what was the difference between his previous behavior of cooking for Click and that stupid green algae head? Sanji was somewhat tempted by the invitation from this pirate group, but he still had a favor to do to Japu that he had not yet repaid. You must be the companions of that young swordsman. Thank you for being there to see us through to the end. Hawkeye looked at Luen, red and black flickering in his eagle-like eyes. It's surprising to have such dominance in this weakest sea. Hawkeye was also a little serious. This is respect for a man who has also awakened his domineering aura and possesses the qualities of a king. It seems that you have something to talk to me about, but let me finish this 247 matter first. Hawkeye said slowly, the domineering aura boiling around Lue and slowed down slightly, representing his answer. Young swordsman, it's too early for you to die. Looking at Zoro, who was rescued onto the ship, Hawkeye raised his voice. I am Jorkalmia. See yourself clearly, understand the world, and become stronger. No matter how many years pass, I will be waiting for you in this strongest position. Surpass this sword, surpass me, Roronoa Zoro. Hawkeye's words represented the world's greatest swordsman's recognition of Zoro's performance just now. This young swordsman has a strong heart to become a super swordsman. Also, I have the pride of being a swordsman. It has been a long time since he has seen such a promising newcomer. Ever since Red Hair lost his left hand and his left-hand sword was completely sealed, Hawkeye has been lonely for too long. In this sea, no one could take him seriously just talking about swordsmanship. Brother, wake up. Johnny and Joseph were in tears, and Usopp kept applying medicine to Zoro and treating his wounds. But Hawkeye knew that Zoro was just unconscious, so he held back. Boy, what is your goal? Hawkeye looked at Luffy, this boy chosen by the red-haired guy. One Piece, Luffy shouted as he faced the world's strongest swordsman. Humph, that's a more difficult path than surpassing me. Hawkeye's mouth curled up. Really? The boy chosen by the red-haired guy should be like this. I don't care. I'm going to be the boss anyway. After Luffy finished speaking, he made a face at Hawkeye. He's still alive, just fainted. Usopp's loud shout made Luffy look quickly. Luen's red and black eyes faded a little, and he also looked at Zoro. "Brother, please say something." Johnny and Joseph burst into tears. Crack! Zoro, using up his last bit of strength, raised the only remaining sword, the Wado Ikamanji, high up in the air. "Luffy, Luen, can you hear me?" Exhausted and badly injured, Zoro was panting, but his voice was still strong. "Ah!" Luffy yelled. "Ah!" Luen also looked solemn. Even if he is an awakened king, he will be given full respect for a man like Zoro. "I'm sorry to have worried you." Zoro raised his knife. "If I don't become the world's strongest swordsman, it will cause you a lot of trouble, ahem." Before he could finish, Zoro started coughing in pain due to his serious injury. "Brother, stop talking. The wound has opened again." Johnny and Joseph cried out in anxiety. But Zoro, holding back the pain, continued to speak. I won't lose again." Zoro did not raise his sword, but covered his eyes with his hands, and tears flowed out. This super tough guy who could endure hunger for 20 days without changing his expression shed tears of shame after suffering such a tragic defeat. It also means that Sauron's ambition will continue. "I will never lose again until I defeat him and become the world's greatest swordsman." Zoro's roar made Hawkeye's mouth curl up. "Do you have any objections?" "Pirate King." "King," Zoro yelled. "He he he. No." Luffy bared his teeth and laughed heartily. Luen didn't answer, but just smiled. Then the red and black in his eyes suddenly boiled, and he looked at Hawkeye. He will tell Sauron his answer through his actions. "King of Heaven, is that your title? Pretty crazy, young man. You are not a swordsman. What do you want from me?" Hawkeye spoke slowly. "How about giving me some face and measuring my capacity?" The corners of Luen's mouth curled up in a domineering arc, meeting a man like Hawkeye, standing on the top of the ocean. How can I not measure the gap between my current capabilities and those of such a peak powerhouse? Because of red hair, Hawkeye is the most suitable target for measurement. Hawkeye heard Luen's words and followed his gesture, then saw the red-haired man's straw hat. Does this young man know his relationship with red hair? Well, this face really needs to be given. Benevolence? Okay. The red and black in Hawkeye's eyes flashed madly. Besides, before Hawkeye could finish, Luen continued. "I need to let my companions know how powerful they are before I can challenge you again." Luen laughed loudly, and red and black lightning began to flash around him. Without the power of Bakon, it is impossible to completely defeat Hawkeye. Hearing this, Hawkeye's eyes suddenly focused as he looked at the red and black lightning flashing around Luen. "Have you ever been to the Grand Line?" "No." "Have you ever been to the New World?" Hawkeye said in a deep voice. This young man not only awakened the Conqueror's Haki, but also knew that the Conqueror's Haki could be entangled in attacks. Is he the most domineering power in this ocean? Otherwise, how could you say such a thing? In the East China Sea, and even the first half of the Grand Line, almost no one knew about Conqueror's Haki, let alone armament Haki. No, even in the New World, there are only a very small number of strong people who know the truth about the power of Conqueror's Haki. I haven't been there. I'm planning to conquer it with my friends. Luen responded domineeringly. I don't know where you got the truth about the power of Conqueror's Haki, but if you know it, what was the point of showing such power to the young swordsman? Such power is innate and cannot be awakened without qualification. The eagle's sharp eyes looked at Luen. Except for Luen, who has the strongest entry system, even Hawkeye cannot tell whether Zoro has the qualifications to be a king. To read the exciting novels, go to Falun Novel Network. So what Hawkeye said to Zoro at this time, that he would make him stronger and surpass him, was just purely from the perspective of swordsmanship. Without the power of Bakon, even if Zoro's swordsmanship is not inferior to his, he has no chance of winning. Hawkeye just wanted to plant a seed to see if this young swordsman could learn sword skills from him in the future and let him find some fun after a long time. Of course, he would not use his domineering power at that time. Of course, he will awaken such power. The corner of Luen's mouth curled up in a domineering arc. He is the man recognized by me, Luen. Luen laughed domineeringly, and the wreckage of the click pirate ship around Luen actually collapsed slightly at this moment. Luen, who is on the sea, has the attribute of being born for the sea and displays the domineering aura. Even Hawkeye cannot ignore him. Hawkeye's pupils is suddenly condensed. This is enough to cause certain real damage to the surrounding objects. After the domineering Haki awakens, it can only impact the weak at first, making them unconscious. If you become stronger, you can use your domineering aura to cause substantial damage to the surrounding objects, until you can initially master the Conqueror's Haki and perform entanglement attacks. Finally, if you fully master the power of Conqueror's Haki entanglement, you will become the strongest person on this sea. This young man is on the right path, walking on the road to the top of this ocean, and Hawkeye didn't know whether his eagle-like eyes were dazzled. In this young man, he seemed to see the man whose execution he had watched before. Shadow of One Piece, confident to the extreme, domineering to the extreme, just standing there. It's like being in the center of the ocean, shining brightly, although this young man's domineering aura is not as strong as that of One Piece. It does have a rudimentary form. Such a young man unexpectedly appeared in the East China Sea, the weakest sea. Hawkeye's heart was in turmoil. Zoro is going to become the world's greatest swordsman. Luen laughed diligently. At this time, Zoro covered his eyes, tears flowing uncontrollably. When? He won't lose again. Snort. Hawkeye's mouth curled up. Interesting. Next moment. Buzz. Boom. Luen's eyes suddenly focused, and the red and black in his eyes seemed to materialize and transformed into a violent storm. Boom! His eyes, as sharp as an eagle's, also focused, and he roared out with his domineering aura. Two storms meet in the atmosphere. Sizzle. Boom! Red and black lightning roared wildly in the atmosphere. Two forces were formed, strangling each other in the atmosphere. The violent storm, at this moment, with Luen and Hawkeye as the center, roared madly. Luffy, who was beside the two, was the first to be hit and was blown away by the violent storm. While shouting, Luffy immediately used the ability of the rubber fruit, stretched out his arms, grabbed the railing of the baratai, and returned to the restaurant ship. Boom! The terrible storm that formed caused the wreckage of the Crick pirate ship to be swept up from the sea into the sky. Bang! 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 As the storm passed, the pupils of the Crick pirates suddenly shrank, their eyes rolled back, and they fainted. Then, it was blown into the sky by the violent storm. Even the clouds in the sky began to roll back, madly moving away from the sky above Luen and Hawkeye. This is a clash between two kings. Nothing, not even the clouds, can be above the king. The domineering and powerful collision. Foul, what happened? Sanji resisted the gusts of wind and looked at the center of the collision with cold sweat on his forehead. Many chefs around him could not withstand such an impact and passed out. What kind of power is this? Conqueror's Haki. Is this the power of Conqueror's Haki? It's really amazing. I had only heard of it, but it was the first time I saw Zeph's domineering aura, and he was shocked. Heroic color. Domineering? Sanji muttered. Conqueror's Haki. It turns out that it can not only make the weak unconscious, but can also be used as a power. Is this what you want to tell me, Luen? At this moment, Zoro was being protected by Usopp, Johnny, and Joseph to prevent him from being affected by the storm despite his serious injuries. But Zoro showed a beast-like smile. He also wants to possess such power. With such power, I can challenge Hawkeye again, right? As for whether he could possess it, Sauron had no doubt. Luen, if he says he can have it, then he can have it. Otherwise, how can I be worthy of Luen's recognition? Call. The storm gradually subsided. The red and black in Luen and Hawkeye's eyes slowly subsided. Plop, plop. The remains of the Click pirates are scattered across the sea. Amazing domineering. He has such a great ability before he even sets out for the Grand Line. King Luen, I will remember this name. Hawkeye's eyes were somewhat shaken. Only after a collision can you personally feel how strong the opponent's domineering aura is. This young man's ability is simply beyond what one of his age and experience should have. In the Grand Line, There are many people whose conqueror haki is far stronger than this young man. However, considering the young man's age and the fact that he has not been to the Grand Line yet, and has such a degree of dominance in the weakest sea, the East Sea, this young man's future is limitless. In addition, he could see some shadows of the Pirate King whose execution he had witnessed in this young man. At this moment, even Hawkeye felt a little shaken. He used a domineering 4.4 collision with Hawkeye, the iconic strongman of the pirate camp, the 7 warlords of the sea, causing his mind to be slightly shaken. Trigger the hidden effect of the faction's luck, super gold, plundering part of its luck. Awaken, armament haki, observation haki, a light curtain that only Luen could see appeared. And the harvest does not end there. Your words have greatly enhanced the bond between Zoro and you, and the entry loading progress has increased. Warcraft physique, dark purple loaded. Luen looked at the light curtain with flickering eyes. The loading of the Warcraft physique was completed, which was part of Luen's plan. However, I didn't expect that through the confrontation of Conqueror's Haki, I could actually trigger the hidden effect of faction luck, super gold. By using the domineering color to collide with each other, the iconic strong man in the pirate camp will be disturbed, and some of his luck can be plundered. That's right. After all, as long as we defeat it completely, the luck of our faction will be able to take away all of its luck. In the collision of Conqueror's Haki, the opponent's mind can be shaken, and a certain advantage can be gained in the battle. No wonder in the original work, those possessors of Conqueror's Haki, even if they have not yet mastered the Haki, will engage in a clash of Conqueror's Haki before the final life and death battle. However, this slight shake is insignificant to Hawkeye, and he can fully recover in just a moment. This is because of red hair. Hawkeye's domineering aura is very restrained. Otherwise, Luen wouldn't have looked evenly matched with Hawkeye in this clash. The red-haired guy's connection really works well. Although it was only a slight shake, it was enough for Luen. Through the little bit of luck he plundered, Luen awakened the armament haki and observation haki. He is worthy of being the top figure among the 7 warlords of the sea, second only to the 4 emperors in the pirate camp. Just a little bit of luck has allowed him to achieve such results. Before entering the Grand Line, what Luen needs most now is this power. In addition, Zoro's Warcraft physique, dark purple, was also loaded at this moment. Check the entry. This is my post. The Doom 2004 post views. 3 Chapter 46. Fusion. Battle refreshing. 20,000 words. Pre-order required. CH46. Items. Luen superhuman physique. Dark purple. Demonic physique. Dark purple. Armament haki. Dark purple. Observation haki. Dark purple. Conqueror haki. Light gold. Faction luck. Super gold. Born for the sea. Super gold. Ghost spirit. Special. Loading, Hymn of Courage, Special. Loading, Sun God, Super Gold. Loading, both Armament Haki and Observation Haki have reached the deep purple level. Through the entry system, at the moment of awakening, Luen had more knowledge about domineering in his mind. The strength of Armament Haki is related to the combination of the owner's physique and capacity. The strength of Observation Haki is related to the combination of the spirit and ability of the owner. Luen has awakened his Conqueror's Haki, and with the Seaborn's power constantly increasing, Luen's Conqueror's Haki is now strong enough to cause some damage to reality. As for the ability to possess domineering strength, Luen is naturally not lacking in it. However, the strength of Armament Haki also requires physical strength, and Luen's current level is only deep purple. So Luen's current armament haki entry level is also deep purple. Luen also received a piece of information about the subsequent conditions for upgrading the physical attributes. Before the light gold level entries, the level of entries related to physique was still directly linked to the combat effectiveness. However, after the light gold level entries, the levels of entries related to physique are more closely linked to physical strength. After all, the threshold for the light gold level combat entry is the threshold combat power of the Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters. Fighters at this level basically possess strong armament haki. No matter how strong their physique is, they're still carbon-based creatures, except for monsters like the 4 Emperors Charlotte Luen who have special abilities like steel balloons, and special races like the Giants. How could other strong men, without using hockey, devil fruit, or moves like iron block, exert combat power above that of a vice admiral of the Marine headquarters relying solely on their physical bodies? Just like one of the strongest warriors in this ocean, Iron Fist Garp, in the original work, he didn't use hockey or iron blocks in his sleep, but he was still chopped by Monka's axe. Therefore, after the gold level, the key to measuring the level of physical attributes lies in the physical strength possessed by the physique. In One Piece's Power 17 system, physical strength is the basis of everything. Whether it is domineering or devil fruit, the driving force of these powers comes from the physical strength of the strong. Like Luffy in the original work, after exhausting his physical strength, he can no longer use either haki or the power of the devil fruit. During the Battle of Bullet Island, Luffy relied on the food delivered by Kizaru to recover his strength, so that he could continue to use haki and devil fruit abilities to fight. It could be said that physical strength is the fuel for powers such as haki and devil fruits. Therefore, the subsequent upgrade of physical attributes mainly depends on the amount of physical strength contained in the attributes. For example, physical strength can provide the owner with domineering or devil fruit ability to exert the strength of the threshold of Vice Admiral of the headquarters of the Navy, light gold. So the physical attributes at this time are light gold level attributes. It can provide the owner with the ability to use haki or devil fruit to reach the threshold of the Admiral of the Marine headquarters, super gold. At this time, the physical attributes are super gold level attributes. It was very simple and easy to understand. Luen. Then, Luen's harvest had not stopped yet. Similar entries appeared: Superman's physique, dark purple; Warcraft's physique, dark purple, automatically merged. Fusion completed, obtaining superhuman monster physique, deep purple. Superman Warcraft physique, deep purple, possesses a digestive ability that exceeds that of Superman physique, deep purple, and can quickly absorb a large amount of nutrition to strengthen itself. Furthermore, no matter how extreme the training was, or how damaged the muscles and bones were, they could recover quickly and completely through the absorbed nutrients at a speed that surpassed the Warcraft physique, deep purple, and thus become stronger. Two constitution entries merged. As Luen thought, Superman's physique and Warcraft's physique can complement each other perfectly. After the fusion, Rune's digestive ability is stronger than Luffy's superhuman physique, and his ability to repair muscles and bones damaged by exercise is stronger than Zoro's monster physique. And because the entries were directly loaded from Sauron, the levels contained in the entries were also integrated. Now Luen's superhuman monster physique only needs 5 deep purple level entries to evolve to the super purple level. Physical strength is enhanced. The Born for the Sea, super gold, entry takes effect, and the armament haki is enhanced. Armament haki has been upgraded to ultra purple level. The light curtain that only Luen could see reappeared. Even if others' physique is enhanced, they still need to wait for the improvement of their equipment and complete training before they can increase the strength of their armament haki. But because of the Born for the Sea entry, Luen's capacity has been digested and can be perfectly controlled. And under the effect of the Born for the Sea entry, his domineering power can be directly enhanced. Therefore, as long as Luen's physical strength increases, the strength of his armament haki will increase accordingly. Unlike others, he still needs to practice diligently. It is indeed the most powerful cheating tool for practicing domineering. Look at the entry for armament haki, super purple. Luen became more and more satisfied with the phrase Born for the Sea. This is also Luen's first super purple level entry. Among the combat items below the gold level, the power of armament haki is too strong. After all, this power only began to be popularized in the New World in the second half of the Grand Line. Even though Luen's Superman monster physique, deep purple, entry is still a deep purple level entry, the combat power displayed by the corresponding armament haki has already reached the super purple level. However, when the combat attributes reach the light gold level, which is the combat power threshold of the Vice Admiral of the Marine headquarters, the level of the physique attributes will converge with the level of the armament color domineering attributes. After all, those at that level of combat power are basically proficient in armament hockey. At this moment, the most important piece of the puzzle to the Grand Line, armament hockey, was obtained by Luen. With the armament hockey, Luen's mind became active. Before entering the Grand Line to defeat Crocodile, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, there was a devil fruit that was barely acceptable. Natural type, smoke fruit. Owner, smoker, the colonel of the Road Town Navy branch. Luen's eyes flickered. Although the power of the smoke fruit is at the bottom among the natural types, it is still a natural type after all. With this devil fruit, the means to deal with Crocodile will be more diverse. In the original work, Luffy was able to defeat Crocodile, relying more on the protagonist's halo. And Luen has always liked to hold his destiny in his own hands. Just by plundering a tiny bit of luck from Hawkeye, he was able to awaken his armament hockey and observation hockey. Although Crocodile is far from being comparable to Hawkeye, he is still one of the 7 warlords of the sea and one of the iconic figures of the pirate camp. Defeat it completely and plunder all of its luck. I wonder how much gain the camp's luck, super gold, can bring to myself. Luen, looking forward to it. Although he awakened his armament hockey and observation hockey, and through the improvement of his physique, his armament hockey was also raised to the ultra purple level. However, with the strongest entry system and the effect of the Born for the Sea, super gold entry, it was completed in an instant. Luen calmed down and looked at Hawkeye. Thank you this time, Hawkeye my hawk. Luen looked at Hawkeye and smiled. Although the other party gave face to red hair, without Mihawk, Zoro's Warcraft physique entry could not be fully loaded. It is even more impossible to awaken the armament hockey and observation hockey. Since the other party gave him face, Luen would not be stingy with a thank you. I didn't expect to meet young people like you in the East China Sea. I am looking forward to meeting you on the Grand Line. Hawkeye thought that what Luen said was to help Luen measure his own capacity and let the young swordsman feel what the most domineering power on the sea was. He smiled when he heard it. He has been bored for too long since Red Hair lost his arm. If we can provide some nutrients to the future buds of the ocean, the future may be more interesting. After saying this, Hawkeye turned and left. Hey, Hawkeye, aren't you here to take my head? At this moment, an angry shout slowed down Hawkeye's pace of leaving. Come and take the head of me, the overlord of the East China Sea. Chief Click, seeing that Hawkeye was only talking to Luen and the others, and ignored him, the overlord of the East China Sea, Click, whose self-esteem had already been frustrated by Luen, roared angrily. I planned to do that, but I've had enough fun. I'm going back to bed. Hawkeye didn't even look back. You've had enough fun, but I've been getting beaten the whole time. Go to hell before you go back. Click roared, revealing all the guns on his armored body, and fired at Hawkeye. What a man who doesn't know how to live or die. Hawkeye has no good feelings towards this ignorant guy. As for such a weak person who cannot recognize himself, after communicating with Zoro, Luen, and others, Hawkeye now doesn't even have the interest to kill him. Hideo.ye swung his sword violently, detonating all the bullets and artillery, and then his figure flashed and disappeared. Humph! Did you let him get away? Click spat in dissatisfaction. Laugh. A harsh sneer made the veins on Click's forehead bulge. Boy, what are you laughing at? Crick stared at Luen. To read exciting novels, go to Falun Novel Network. This kid, just now relying on that inexplicable power, made him afraid to look directly at him, and also made his subordinates unconscious. But a cruel smile appeared on Click's lips. Humph, how can a human cut open a giant ship with a sword? The so-called Hawkeye must also rely on the power of the legendary Devil Fruit. And the inexplicable power released by you and Hawkeye is also a kind of Devil Fruit ability, right? Such people are numerous in the Grand Line. Zeph, who was able to sail the Grand Line for a year, should be able to deal with people with special abilities like you. As long as I get that logbook, I can conquer the Grand Line again. Looking at Luen, who had restrained his arrogance and looked less powerful, Click stretched out his arms and laughed out loud. And you are also stupid. After releasing that power just now, I guess you don't have the strength to release that kind of power again, right? Click looked at Luen with a cruel look on his face. Ha ha ha. After hearing what Click said, Luen couldn't hold back any longer and burst into laughter, laughing so hard that tears came out. Click in the original work was so stupid, but no one expected that after witnessing the clash between his own and Hawkeye's Conqueror's Haki, this idiot also classified Conqueror's Haki as a part of the ability of the Devil Fruit. He also said, "Let Hawkeye run away." The remarks of Frog in a well can really amuse people. So what are you laughing at? Click was completely enraged and pointed the weapon under his armor at Luen. Ha ha ha. Sorry, you really amuse me. Luen wiped the tears of laughter from the corners of his eyes. But if you want to fight me, you must be prepared to lose everything. Luen's smile gradually disappeared. Lose everything? You mean the so-called Davy back fight game, kid? A vein popped up on Click's forehead. To make the other person happy. Click was extremely annoyed when he heard this. The so-called Davy back fight game is the pirate game played by Foxy and Luffy, the users of the slow fruit in the original work. Those who fail in the game will have their partner's dignity and pirate flag taken away. They will lose everything they have as pirates. This is a very famous game among pirates. I'm not talking about playing house. Luen looked at Click with an evil expression. Boss, after I kill this idiot, can Luffy's 1-year work here be offset? One looked at Zeph. I'd love to have this kid work for me for a year, but he'll ruin my restaurant. Zeph's eyes narrowed. He also wanted to see what methods this owner of domineering had. Well then, Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, Nami, and Sanji watched carefully this domineering, powerful. 597 Lou and looked at Click with a domineering arc at the corner of his mouth. Domineering, Luffy and Zoro's attention was immediately drawn. Hey, why do you include me? Sanji said this, but his eyes were fixed on Luen. There should be a limit to how much you can look down on others, kid. Click roared and fired at Luen with all the artillery in his body. Boom! Following the explosion, dust engulfed Luen. Well, you deserve it. Click laughed happily. Hey, the so-called overlord of the East China Sea relies on this kind of toy? Click's pupils shrank as he stared at Luen, who was shielding himself with his palms in the dust and was unharmed. This kind of use of armament haki is based on the same principle as the 3 admirals blocking Whitebeard's shockwave during the Battle of Marineford. Then Luen, brushing off the non-existent dust on his body, walked towards Click. With the armed color domineering, the dust could not fall on Luen at all. But this kind of behavior is very handsome. Skay, Luen, Luffy shouted loudly, showing his ability to always provide his friends with sufficient emotional value. Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp also widened their eyes. Nami covered her red lips and stared blankly at Luen, who seemed to be shining in the center of the ocean. Armament haki can become armor for defense. Luen explained in a domineering manner as he walked towards Click, whose forehead was beginning to sweat. Well enough. Whoosh! Luen exerted force on his feet and instantly came in front of Click. Arm! Luen raised his right fist, and the next moment, buzz! Clang! Along with a metallic sound, Luen's right fist was wrapped in the armed color domineering and became as black as ink. Armament haki hardened. Don't be so arrogant, kid. If you want to fight, just try it. Click showed a cruel smile, grabbed with his hand, and a steel cloak covered with needles was put on by Click. Hey, that's too mean. Sanji saw this and yelled. But the next moment I was stunned. Not bad. Break through everything. The right fist fell down fiercely as Luen spoke. Crack! At this moment, the iron cloak made of countless needles was instantly shattered like a fragile piece of sugar. Whoosh! The pitch-black right fist continued to move forward with force, slamming into Click's face, who was looking horrified. Bang! With a loud bang, Click fell to the ground. Boom! Some wreckage of the Click pirate ship beneath their feet also exploded instantly, with such powerful force that it even caused waves in the surrounding seawater. Sanji stared at all this in a daze. Click, at this moment, had a deep fist mark on his face, making his cheeks sunken, his eyes rolled back, and he was silent. The overlord of the East China Sea was killed instantly. Plunder. This is my post. The Doom 2004 post views. For Chapter 47. People's dreams will never end. Seeking a flower monthly pass. CH-47. Sanji and the chefs stared blankly at Click, who was lying soundlessly at Rune's feet. The pirate leader, Click, who was known as the overlord of the East China Sea and had a bounty of 17 million berries, was killed instantly. That cloak made entirely of steel needles was actually smashed to pieces by a fist. Is this man still human? Skay, Luffy yelled. Heroic. Is this the power of heroic? Zoro murmured as he struggled to hold up his seriously injured body. This power can only be obtained by going to the Grand Line. It really makes my blood boil. A beast-like smile appeared on Zoro's lips. Skay. Usopp was stunned. How can a human fist penetrate steel and remain unscathed? Luen. Nami covered her red lips and looked at Luen, who seemed to be shining in the center of the sea, her beautiful eyes sparkling. So strong, really so strong. That Click, after all, was a pirate with a bounty of 17 million berries, known as the Overlord of the East Sea. He couldn't even take a single blow from Luen and was killed instantly. Aaron, the bounty is only 20 million Baileys. Even if he is stronger than Click, he is not strong enough to kill Click with one punch. At this moment, Nami pursed her red lips, remembering what Luen had once said to her. Leader, Ajin cried out in horror. The invincible leader Crick was actually killed by this man with just one punch. Plunder. Luen, give the order. A purple light that only Luen could see was stripped from Click's body and obtained by Luen. Click has a deep purple level super strength entry. Luen didn't even bother to read the explanation of this entry and directly converted it. Click's combat power mainly relies on some external equipment, and his own extraordinary strength is the only thing that can stand out. After the transformation, Luen obtained a deep purple level entry, which is pretty good. Gurgle. Under the horrified gaze of Jean, Sanji, and many chefs, Click, the so-called overlord of the East China Sea who relied on his extraordinary strength and equipment to roam the East China Sea, the body that was stronger than an ordinary person suddenly began to shrink. Those conspicuous muscles quickly degenerated and finally became powerless. Strength-related items were plundered by Luen. Whether it was strength or physique, they would become the nourishment of Luen's strength. Everything will be taken away by Luen. You, what did you do? Ajin rushed to Click's side, looked at Luen in horror at Click's strange and terrifying changes. I told you, if you fight me, you must be prepared to lose everything. Luen showed a wicked expression. Ajin remained silent. After a moment, he slowly stood up and raised his weapon, which was a pair of crutches with iron balls attached. Oh, you dare to raise a weapon against me after seeing the miserable state of Crick? The bounty of 12 million Baileys, the captain of the Crick pirates, the demon akin. Luen looked at Ajin. Ajin, what are you going to do? Sanji's eye twitched, and he yelled. However, Sanji did not expect that Akin was actually the captain of the Click pirates. 12 million Baileys. You're quite a capable guy, Jean, but you can't be a match for Luen. The guy that Luen knocked down was not a good guy. Why did you fight for him? Luffy yelled at Jean. I know I'm no match for Mr. Luen, but I am the leader's subordinate after all. My dream is to assist him. Ajin's face was gloomy and his eyes were determined. That's a good thing, but as a pirate, you have raised your weapon, so you are ready to lose everything, right? The corners of Luen's mouth curled up in a domineering arc, awakening. I've already done it. Ajin roared and threw the crutches with iron balls attached to them at Luen. Clang! Accompanied by the sound of metallic collision, Ajin's brow was covered with cold sweat, and he looked at everything in front of him in horror. The place he hit was Luen's liver area, which was a big weakness of humans. Once his iron ball crutches hit the enemy here, it would rupture his internal organs and make him unable to resist. But looking at the area on Luen's abdomen that had turned as dark as ink, Ajin's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Is this the power that killed Chief Click? It turns out that it can not only cover the fists, but also the torso. So strong, like a monster. Only a man like this can conquer the Grand Line, right? He and Chief Click are simply frogs in a well. Ajin smiled carefreely and looked at Luen. Come on, in this, Mr. Luen. Ajin said loudly. Very good. Luen looked at Ajin and smiled. Bang! Ajin let Luen punch him on the head and lost consciousness. Ajin, you idiot, Sanji muttered as he looked at the fallen Ajin. He didn't blame Luen for his idea. After all, it was Ajin's own choice. Luen, if he doesn't defeat Ajin, it would be an insult to this man who has already made up his mind. Men on the sea can die, but they cannot lose their dignity and dreams. But Sanji looked at the fallen Akin and the seriously injured Zoro beside him with complicated eyes. One by one, they all fought for their dreams and ambitions. Even though you know you can't win, you still try to show off your strength. But Sanji covered his chest. Why was he so excited? All Blue, the legendary place where the four seas meet and where all the fish and other food in the ocean are said to be. After seeing what was happening before his eyes, Sanji's dream burned brightly and could not be extinguished. Plunder. Luen Sowet no merci. I admire him, but as Luen said, since he has revealed his weapon to me, I must be prepared to lose everything. Luen will not show mercy to Ajin, who has made up his mind. This is pirate. After plundering the entries from Ajin and then transforming them, Luen obtained 6 combat type, light purple level entries. Ajin's strength is still not as good as Crick's, nor as good as Silo's, whose entries were plundered by Luen before. He does not have deep purple level entries. In the original novel, the reason why Sanji was in a difficult battle was because he had been injured after a series of battles. Moreover, before awakening his domineering aura, he was at a natural disadvantage against Ajin, who had weapons, because he had no weapons and only relied on kicking skills. Gurgle. The strength of Ajin's body was completely taken away. Whoosh! Luen grabbed Ajin and jumped to Sanji's side. He can be considered as your friend. Don't worry, he is not dead, but my power has been taken away from him. Luen placed Ajin next to Sanji. It's enough to be alive. As a pirate, when you throw yourself in a battle, you must be prepared to lose everything. Sanji looked at Ajin, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. But who on earth are you to be able to take away other people's power? Sanji looked at Rune, his eyes twitching a little. It was terrifying to witness such power with one's own eyes. Once you become our partner, you will know it naturally. One looked at Sanji and smiled. Uncle, can I stop working? Luffy and others had already seen this ability of Luen in the Westraw village. Luffy grinned at Zeph. You are free. Zeph smiled. Great, we can go now. Usopp yelled. We can go now, Sanji. Luffy looked at Sanji and grinned. When did I say I wanted to go with you? The guys here are all unreliable. How can I leave here? Sanji looked at the sea and lit a cigarette. But one day, I will go to the Grand Line. Sanji muttered. Then go now. Luffy came to Sanji's side and grinned. The time has not come yet. Sanji muttered, then smiled from the bottom of his heart. Hey, do you know Yellow Blue? Sanji excitedly began to talk to Luffy about his dream. Luen glanced at Nami at this time, and Nami seemed to have something on her mind. It looked like Nami was going to confess to herself. Using his observation haki to sense Nami's emotional fluctuations, Luen's mouth curled up slightly. To read the exciting novels, go to Falun Novel Network. Zeph, who was standing at the fence on the second floor, looked at Sanji, who was smiling from the bottom of his heart and talking about his dreams, and his eyes moved slightly. The minions of the Click Pirates were handed over to the chefs of the Barati restaurant to deal with. These minions did not have attributes above the purple level and were useless to Luen. However, from Palu, the captain of the 2nd Division of the Click Pirates, who fought against Sanji in the original work and was finally killed by Akin, a light purple level entry was obtained through plundering conversion. With the addition of Ajin's 6 light purple combat items and the 3 light purple combat items converted from Zhang, it is equivalent to having another dark purple combat item. The strength of Luen's current armament haki is completely related to his physique. Without hesitation, Luen used all these entries to enhance the Superman Beast physique, dark purple. There are only 3 deep purple threshold entries left to advance to the super purple level. The strength of Luen's armament haki also became stronger because of this. After strengthening the Superman monster physique, deep purple, entry, Luen ate a large amount of food under the stun gaze of Japu and others, digesting it to replenish the missing physical strength. Hey, who made this soup? While they were eating, Patty suddenly pointed at a bowl of soup and yelled. Luen, who had almost finished eating, looked at this scene with a smile on his face. What a bunch of dishonest idiots. However, Luen doesn't hate such idiots. It's me. It tastes good, right? I made it especially delicious today. Sanji laughed. Who can drink something this disgusting? Is this pig food? Patty said with disgust. Your tongue is the problem. Today's soup is my masterpiece. Veins popped out on Sanji's forehead. He would not compromise when it came to cooking. It tastes terrible. It tastes terrible. What the hell is this? After Sanji finished speaking, more chefs came to taste the soup made by Sanji, and then they all showed disgusted expressions. Sanji's expression became increasingly ugly, and finally he became completely angry. What on earth do you want? Sanji yelled as he looked around at the many chefs. You're just a fake sous chef anyway, and you only know how to solve problems with violence. Yes, I have disliked you for a long time. The chefs looked at Sanji coldly. We are chefs at sea, and we cannot waste any food. Japu suddenly spoke up, drawing everyone's attention. Under Sanji's gaze, Zeph finished the soup, and then, bang! Under Sanji's incredulous gaze, Zeph smashed the plate he had just finished drinking his soup on. What kind of muddy soup is this? If I serve it to customers, I'll go bankrupt. Zeph snorted. Hey, stinky old man, explain what you mean. What's the difference between the soup I make and yours? After his cooking skills were denied by the person he respected the most, Sanji could no longer bear it. He rushed forward, grabbed Zeph's collar, and yelled, You are a billion years too early to talk to me about cooking. I'm a man who has cooked in the oceans of the world. Zeph yelled as he knocked Sanji down with one punch. Sanji covered his cheek, and after a moment, he slowly stood up. Hateful! Sanji roared and stormed out of the restaurant. Even if he was denied like this, he would not be violent towards Japu, whom he regarded as his father. This soup is so delicious. After Sanji rushed out, Luffy scooped another bowl of soup. Usopp agreed. Zoro, who inexplicably disliked Sanji, did not deny it. Nami scooped another bowl of soup for Luen and herself. One looked at Nami and smiled. Sanji's cooking is indeed delicious. Of course it's delicious. Everyone here recognizes Sanji's cooking skills. Zeph spoke slowly. This is a delicious soup. That guy got really mad. It scared me to death. The boss is really good at giving us problems. The chefs all breathed a sigh of relief. But if we don't say this, how will Sanji leave obediently? Zeph looked at Luffy and Rune. You guys are still sure of a cook on board, right? This isn't a request, but can you take that brat with you? You have seen his cooking skills, and his dream is to go to the Grand Line. Zeph looked emotional. I don't want it. Luffy raised his head. Why? Many chefs looked confused. Didn't you say that the ship was short of a cook? Zeph was also confused. I also want him to go with us, but he said he wants to stay and be a chef. Even if you say so, I can't take him with me. Luffy said, then raised his plate. Another bowl, please. In other words, do you want him to go with you willingly? Zeph smiled. That's it, Luffy said while eating. But will that little devil go away obediently? Japu stroked his beard. I don't think so. He's a super stubborn idiot. The chefs were talking about it. Everyone heard it, you bastards. Outside the door, Sanji turned back, lit a cigarette, leaned against the door, and looked at the sky. Then we'll be off. Thank you for the treat. After eating, Luen and the others prepared to leave, and Luffy grinned. Hey, wait. At this time, Sanji, who had packed his luggage, came over. For the sake of my dream, I will accompany you to explore the Grand Route. Sanji raised his head, his face determined. A chef is here. Luffy yelled with his teeth bared. Welcome, Sanji. Luen laughed. Leave the cooking to me from now on. Sanji said as he walked towards Ameri. Don't you need to say goodbye to them? Luffy pointed behind Sanji at the group of chefs and Zeph. Unnecessary. Sanji exhaled a puff of smoke. Hey, Sanji. Just as Sanji was about to board the ship, Zeph's voice was heard. Sanji paused, but didn't answer. Stinky old man. Why are you calling him? Do you want to hug him and cry? That's not the way men should say goodbye. Sanji made up his mind that no matter what the old man said, he would not look back and say goodbye gracefully like a man of the sea. Don't catch a cold. Zeph smiled. Sanji bit his throat, his nose suddenly felt sore, and his eyes were red with tears. Bang! He turned around and suddenly knelt down towards Zeph. Boss Chapu, thank you for your care for so long. I will never forget your kindness. Sanji, tears streaming down his face. Luen looked at this scene and smiled. Don't catch a cold. This is such a heart-wrenching concern. You little brat. Japu's eyes were also red with tears. So lonely. Take care, Sanji, you bastard. The chefs also cried loudly. Assholes. See you next time. After boarding the Mary, Sanji laughed and scolded the many chefs with tears in his eyes. Sanji joins the Straw Hat Pirates. Loadable entries have been updated. Transformed exoskeleton loading. Share. Apollo 555 post views. 3 Chapter 48. Look to the future. Luen, help me. Seeking a flower monthly pass. CH 48. In an area of the East China Sea, the Mary was sailing. Joseph and Johnny have already said goodbye to Luen and the others. The top floor of the Mary was converted into a training room according to the requirements of Luen and others. Bang! Bang! With two crisp sounds, Luffy and Zoro hit the wall. It hurts! Luffy cried out in pain, covering his bruised face. I'm rubber. Why is it so painful? Did Grandpa also use hockey to hit me? Luffy rubbed the wound and grimaced. Even with a rubber body, it hurts like hell. Now that he knew that the power rune used was hockey, Luffy finally understood what Power Garp used when he beat him. Wow, wow, so strong. Zoro got up from the ground, gasping for breath. There was still shock in his eyes. Although both of his swords were cut off by Hawkeye, leaving only one Wado Ikamanji, he was not very good at one sword style compared to three sword style. He was also injured and could not fully display his strength. But the power of domineering is still too strong. Even when he and Luffy joined forces, they were completely powerless against Rune. Looking at the black color on Luen's fists, Zoro's eyes were solemn. This is the power that those who travel on the sea must possess. Armament Haki. His knife was completely unable to cut, and the attack power is also unparalleled. This is just wrapping the armament Haki around his fist. What if he wraps this power around his sword? A beast-like smile appeared on Zoro's lips. Then he will definitely become countless times stronger. But then, Luen's words broke Zoro's fantasy. Don't you have any feeling towards domineering? Luen looked at Zoro and Luffy helplessly. Luen, don't look at me like that. I'm starting to think that Luffy and I are the same idiot. Zoro's whole face twitched when he looked at Luen. That's the look you give to an idiot. If you ask why I know, it's because Zoro often looks at Luffy like this. What the hell, Zoro? I'm just not serious yet. Luffy, stimulated by Zoro's words, jumped up immediately, roared in dissatisfaction, and then rushed towards Luen. Look at my full strength. Rubber, rubber. Bang. Zoro's mouth twitched as he looked at Luffy, who was screaming and knocked into the wall by Rune's punch and couldn't get out for a long time. One idiot. But why? He was just like this idiot, feeling nothing about the domineering power that Luen talked about. Especially when he saw Luen's helpless look, the corners of Zoro's mouth twitched even more. Is he that stupid? Take your time and don't be too anxious. One looked at Zoro and Luffy and sighed. I originally wanted to teach these two guys a lesson, let them learn how to be domineering before arriving at Road Town, and have them work for me while I was fighting Smoker. But now it seems that it is still too difficult to teach Luffy and Zoro, who have just set out to sea, to learn hockey. Of course, Luen's so-called teaching is not as good as that of Rayleigh, who is ridiculed as misleading his students. Luen, you don't know how to teach people to be domineering. Even if others have learned armament hockey, and even if their abilities and physique have met the requirements, they still need to practice hockey in order to enhance it. But Luen, who has the domineering training cheat tool born for the sea, Super Gold, you just need to improve your physique and armament hockey, and you will naturally become stronger. Luen, who was born for the sea, Super Gold, is now definitely the most terrifying genius in this ocean in terms of domineering. And for super geniuses, how do they learn to use domineering power? Doesn't that mean you can use your domineering power just by thinking about it and raising your hand? Do you still need to learn it? Therefore, Luen took the most direct approach to the training of Zoro and Luffy. Get beaten. Use your body to directly feel the power of domineering, and then learn to be domineering. Of course, Luen held back on the injured Zoro. Originally, Luen wanted Zoro to heal his wounds before continuing his training, but seeing that Zoro was determined to practice even if he died, Luen didn't say much. Anyway, Zoro has the Warcraft physique attribute, so nothing will happen as long as he pays attention. However, this progress of cultivation is not very ideal. Luffy and Zoro, after all, have only been out to sea for a short time, and their strength and ability are far from the level when they learned Haki in the original work. Even when it came to learning Haki in the original work, Luffy and Zoro practiced hard for a long time before they learned Haki. Luen knew that it was not possible to make Luffy and Zoro learn Haki in a short period of time, so he could only do it slowly. These two will be my best workers in the future. I have to become stronger quickly and help me collect those super powerful entries. Luen sighed. Seeing Luen sigh, Zoro's face twitched even more violently. Skay, Luen is really too strong. Seeing that Luffy and Zoro were completely powerless against Luen, Usopp, who was watching, exclaimed in amazement. Nami nodded and looked at Luen, unable to take her eyes away. Crack! Come on, eat something, you idiots. The door to the training room opened, and Sanji walked in with a bunch of prepared food, shouting at Luffy and Zoro. Luen, this one is yours. Sanji's attitude towards Luen has improved a lot. He handed the largest portion to Luen. Who are you calling a fool? You frizzy-browed idiot. Zoro was very sensitive to the word idiot at the moment. When he heard Sanji's words, veins popped out on his forehead, and he cursed angrily. What did you say? Green algae head. You want to fight? Sanji was also angry. Immediately fight with Sauron. It's delicious. Luffy ate the food with a grin. Yeah, it's delicious. While watching Zoro and Sanji fighting, Luen enjoyed Sanji's cooking skills. This is a completely different meal of ingredients and seasoning from those on Blue Star. For the dragon people of Blue Star, nothing could be more enjoyable than having such a delicious meal after workout. Moreover, all the food eaten was used by the Superman Warcraft physique, deep purple, entry to strengthen the body, which was an enjoyment within an enjoyment. As for why Sanji didn't accept Luen's domineering training like Zoro and Luffy, because Sanji's position is a chef. Compared to training, Sanji's requirement for himself is to first satisfy the diet of Luen and others after training and ensure that Luen and others have a balanced nutrition. Secondly, it is to exercise your own strength. After fighting with Sanji for a while, Zoro fell down. Being constantly beaten by Haki and his injuries had not healed yet, Zoro had already reached his limit. Sanji did not take the opportunity to add insult to injury. If someone was hungry, Sanji would feed him first, even if it was the green-haired guy whom he disliked. At this time, Zoro was eating Sanji's food with relish. Although the stinky chef is annoying, his cooking skills are impeccable. Zoro thought as he ate, "Isn't it delicious? You have to eat all the green algae without leaving any bite." Sanji watched Zoro wolfing down his food, as well as Luen and Luffy praising his food, and lit a cigarette, smiling. As a chef, there is no greater sense of accomplishment than this moment. No need for you to be so nosy, you curly-eyebrowed one. Zoro cursed, then ignored Sanji and continued eating. Snort. Sanji smiled. This bastard green algae head. Just admit that his cooking is delicious. I finished eating it. It's delicious. To read exciting novels, go to Falloon Novel Network. Luffy grinned. Go and rest after you finish eating. The training of domineering will end here first. The rest can be dealt with when we reach the Grand Line. Luen also ate enough food for his superhuman monster physique to digest and stood up. Sailing at night is very dangerous. Even with a navigator, the ship needs to be anchored in the sea and cannot continue sailing until daybreak. Oh, starting tomorrow, we will be heading to the Grand Line. Luffy grinned. These days in this sea area, Luen has been teaching them how to be domineering. Zoro and Sanji both smiled. Their dreams can only be realized by going to the Grand Line. Only Luen remained silent, walked meaningfully toward the door and observed the weather with Nami. Through her observation haki, she had already captured Nami's emotional changes after Luffy shouted that he wanted to go to the Grand Line. Staying in this sea area these days to teach Luffy and others how to be domineering is also to give Nami enough time to make up her mind and confess. It seems that I can still harvest some entries before heading to the Grand Line. Luen smiled and walked toward the bathroom. Call. After taking a comfortable hot bath, Luen sat on his bed and exhaled a breath of refreshing air. However, it is worthy of being called haki. I didn't expect that even the training of observation haki would be so bloody. Luen's eyes narrowed slightly. Although Rune's domineering aura is very strong, bibbed, because of the Born for the Sea, Super Gold, entry, it can continue to become stronger every day. However, in order to obtain armament haki and observation haki, one also needs to improve one's physical and mental strength. There is no need to say much about the improvement of armament haki. Through the Born for the Sea, Super Gold, entry, Rune only needs to strengthen his physique to make his armament haki stronger. As for his observation haki, in the process of beating Luffy and Zoro, Rune also understood how to improve it through exploration and based on the feedback from the strongest entry system. What determines the strength of observation haki is the combination of spirit and ability. The spirit here can be understood as an extension of the five senses of the strong, and can thus sense the enemy's breath, emotions, and movements. After the observation haki is awakened, you can improve your five senses and make your observation haki even stronger through training. Moreover, the five senses play a greater role in determining the strength of one's observation haki than one's own capacity. It can be understood that observation haki is an amplifier and embodiment of the five senses of the strong. The improvement of the five senses, except for geniuses, can only be achieved through fighting with at least the same level of strong people, and it must be a life and death fight in order to improve significantly. Yes, observation haki is different from armament haki, and there are geniuses in this area. For example, although he is only at the Vice Emperor level, he has cultivated his observation haki to the extreme and achieved what many Emperor-level powerhouses cannot do, such as Katakuri, who can briefly see the future. This ability to briefly see the future by cultivating observation haki to the extreme is actually the embodiment and extension of the owner's sixth sense after the evolution of observation haki. For example, some geniuses are born with the awakening of special observation haki, which cannot even be obtained through practice. As for geniuses with observation haki like Katakuri, in order to improve the five concrete senses, they need to fight with a strong person of at least the same level, and it must be a life and death fight to improve it. It is easy to understand. Even for ordinary people on Blue Star, their five senses will be significantly enhanced when they are in extreme danger and stress. A strong person who has awakened his observation haki and put himself in a life and death struggle that puts him in terrible danger can enhance this concrete five senses. But if you're fighting a life and death battle with someone who is at least of the same level, you could really die if you're not careful. Those who are not dead will be tempered in the battle of life and death. Their five senses will become stronger, and they will forge a stronger observation haki. In addition, we also need to consider their talent in this area. After all, some young people may be strong, but have poor five senses, such as the four emperors and Big Mom. As expected of a domineering power system similar to Raising Gu, the improvement of the auxiliary observation haki is even more bloody and harsh than the conditions for improving the armament haki. No wonder there are so many masters of armament haki in this sea. There are even strong ones who can step into the admiral level just by relying on armament haki, such as Black Arm Zephyr in his peak period. However, there are very few people who can cultivate the observation haki to the extreme and be able to see the future for a short period of time. Luen thought about this and smiled. For Luen, who has the strongest entry system, there is another way to improve his observation haki, which is to upgrade directly using entries. For Luen, it is only a matter of time before he can improve his observation haki to the point where he can see the future. But there is no rush for now. In the first half of the Grand Line, There are not many places that require super observation hockey. What Luen needs to improve most right now is his physical strength. Bang bang. While Luen was thinking, the door suddenly rang. Luen, who has awakened his observation hockey, can tell who is outside the door through perception even without opening the door. Crack. Opening the door and looking at the beautiful figure outside, Luen smiled gently. Komin, Nami. Luen said sideways. Did you know I was coming to see you, Luen? Hearing Luen's words, Nami bit her red lips. Of course, I can clearly feel your every emotional change. Luen looked at Nami and smiled gently. With the observation hockey, combined with knowledge of the plot, and the preparations he had made over the past few days, it was very easy for him to guess that Nami would come to find him. Luen. Nami pursed her red lips, with a touch of emotion in her beautiful eyes. Luen actually cared about her so much that he could even sense every little bit of her emotional fluctuations. Nami, you call. Just as Luen was about to say something, he felt warm in his heart. Looking at Nami, who fell into his arms with her shoulders shaking slightly, Luen gently stroked Nami's orange hair. Thank you for your hard work, Nami, Luen said softly. Luen could feel that his heart suddenly became wet. Nami bit her red lips and raised her pretty face. Luen felt a little distressed by her tearful look. Nami, who had to endure the hatred of her mother's murder at the age of 10, took the safety of the villagers on her shoulders and earned the huge sum of 100 million belly. 100 million baileys. In the East China Sea, the highest bounty offered to Aaron is only 20 million baileys. What a heavy mountain this was for a 10-year-old girl. But Nami earned it through her own efforts, and because of Nami's kindness, she even accomplished this feat simply by stealing the treasure of the evil pirates. Nami, it's really hard. Luen, help me. This was the first time Nami showed a tender expression typical of a girl after her mother, Belmir, was killed. This simple sentence of thank you for your hard work completely opened Nami's heart. Luen gently wiped away Nami's tears. Then, with his eyes fixed, he walked out of the room with a deafening roar. Of course, his eyes were full of grimness. Thump, thump, thump. The lights in the 4 rooms were turned on immediately. Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, and Sanji all walked onto the deck, ready to go. Nami, where are you going? Luffy rolled up his sleeves and showed a villainous expression. Luen, let us be ready to fight when we hear his voice. Zoro showed the Wado Ikamanji. Call. Sanji exhaled a puff of smoke, his face grim. Usopp said nothing, but his legs, which always shook with fear every time he encountered something, were very steady this time. Nami, let's go. We want the life of anyone who hurt you. We are pirates. Luen had a grim expression. This was the first time Luen had been furious since he came into this world. Kokoyashi Village. Nami's eyes were red as she mentioned this place. Share. Apollo 555 post views. 3 Chapter 49. Before the people, there is no one left. CH49, Donghai Kekiaxi Village. This is the ruling area of the Aaron Empire created by Aaron and his gang, who have a bounty of 20 million baileys. The humans here are regarded as inferior creatures by Aaron and his group of fishmen, and are ruled violently. In the area ruled by the Along Empire, every village collected tribute based on the number of people, 100,000 belly for adults and 50,000 belly for children. If you fail to pay the tribute, you will be killed. Nami's adoptive mother Belmir chose to let Nami and another adopted daughter, Nojiko, survive because she only had 100,000 belly and was killed in front of Nami. Afterwards, Nami was valued by Arlong because of her outstanding talent as a navigator and her ability to measure nautical charts. In order to let Nami draw a sea chart for them, Aaron made a promise to Nami that as long as Nami could pay 100 million berries, he would sell her hometown to her. Thus, 10-year-old Nami embarked on the path of a pirate thief until now. On the Mary, Luen and the others had grim expressions. Although Luen already knew the plot, he was shocked to hear it from Nami and see this beautiful girl who had always been strong and sobbing in front of him. Even the flashing, domineering aura in Luen's eyes began to become violent. I didn't want to involve you. Aaron and the others are fishmen. Their arm strength is naturally 10 times greater than that of humans. They are real monsters. I wanted to sort this out myself. Nami's beautiful eyes were filled with tears, and she pursed her red lips as she looked at Luen. Although during these days, Nami also witnessed Luen's strength. But even though he saw how powerful Luen's punch was in killing Crick, and the scene where he possesses incredible power and clashed with the legendary world's greatest swordsman, Hawkeye Mihawk, using his Conqueror's Haki. However, due to the psychological trauma she suffered since childhood, even after being excited, Nami still did not have absolute certainty in her heart that Luen and others could definitely defeat Eren and his gang. After all, the effect of psychological shadows is very terrifying. In Nami's cognition, fishmen are the real monsters in this sea, and humans are no match for such monsters. She didn't leave before because Luen had said that if she told him anything, Luen would risk his life. But Nami didn't want Luen to risk his life for her. Instead, he wanted to say goodbye to Luen properly and use another excuse. Nami didn't want to disappoint Luen, who had said those words to her, who had been so gentle to her, and who had protected her all along. At least, they should have a decent farewell. During the days when Luen was teaching Luffy and the others how to be domineering, Nami had been thinking about what kind of excuse she could find to say goodbye to Luen in a decent manner. But Nami knew that she was deceiving herself. She was reluctant to leave here, reluctant to leave Luen. But in the process of Luen teaching Luffy and others how to be domineering, one also explained some of the situations of the Grand Line. Only then did Nami realize that the fishmen, who in her eyes were invincible and seemed like monsters, were actually treated as slaves by humans in the Grand Line. It turns out that in the Grand Line, there really are races that are said to be countless times more powerful than the Murlocs, such as the Giants. In front of the Giants, the mermen are nothing but a group of ants. But even though the Giants are so powerful, it is still humans who truly dominate this ocean. I also know that in the face of domineering, simply having great strength is meaningless. When a person who doesn't know how to be domineering faces a domineering master, the ending is just like when Crick faced Luen. He had no power to fight back. Even a race like the Merfolk is like this. As for domineering, it is a power that only begins to become popular in the New World in the second half of the Grand Line. Let alone the Four Seas, even in the first half of the Grand Line, very few people possess such power. Eren and others are not domineering. Finally, after Rune and the others decided to head to the Grand Line tomorrow, Nami decided to confess to Rune. But at first, Nami just wanted to tell Luen what happened to her, and she still wanted to solve it with money. However, Luen's gentleness and the words, "Thank you for your hard work," made Nami's sadness and pain over the years burst out at once. Otherwise, I'd better go and buy the village back with 100 million Baileys. Eren, you still keep your promise. Nami calmed down, bit her red lips, and looked at Luen. It's no wonder that Nami's inner thoughts keep changing. It's really that the psychological shadow has too much impact on Nami. After the emotional outburst, Nami still didn't want Luen to fight with the fishmen in Eren's group. You should also know that this is impossible, right, Nami? Luen suppressed the rage in his heart and looked at Nami. You also said that the group of fishmen ruled that sea area unscrupulously. They did not attract a powerful navy, and they still ruled for so many years. It cannot be done without an insider in the navy. As long as you save up 100 million Baileys, it will let the navy take away all your money as stolen money. Do you have any solution? Luen looked at Nami with tenderness in his eyes. Today is the age of great pirates. Even against the giants of the sea, the navy is stretched thin. Therefore, the navy has a priority in hunting down pirates. Pirates who commit many evil deeds, such as burning, killing, and looting, will be considered priority targets by the navy. Therefore, many pirates, although they would rob money, would not kill people wantonly, because this would make them a target of powerful navies. This is also the purpose of the navy. The sea is too big, and there are too many pirates to catch them all. Only by using such deterrence can we minimize the harm caused by those vicious pirates to the people. If a Navy headquarters found out about Eren's bloody rule over more than 20 villages, including Cocoa West Village, he would definitely be wiped out by the Navy headquarters. Therefore, it is necessary to bribe the branch navy that governs this sea area and prevent the Navy headquarters from knowing the detailed situation here. This is what happened in the original novel. The naval branch that governed this sea area was bribed by Arlong. The rat colonel of this naval branch took away all the money Nami had saved. Eren asked Nami to earn 100 million Baileys again, and this process will never end. Nami's pupil shrank. She had never thought of this possibility, or rather, she didn't dare to think about it. Before she met Luen, she had no one to rely on. When there is no one to rely on and no one around, people will deceive themselves and give themselves hope. Nami's only hope is to buy back her hometown from Eren using 100 million berries. If this hope were shattered, Nami didn't know what would happen to her. But now, Luen told Nami, there is no longer no one in front of you. Nami looked at Luen and bit her red lips. With someone to rely on, Nami dared to think about more possibilities. The situation that Luen described was very likely to happen. If Eren really bribed the Navy to identify her money as stolen money and take it away, she would have no way to deal with it. I can only continue to survey and draw sea charts for Eren and his gang, and I will never be free. Eren, you can do it. Nami, come behind me. Pirate, there are pirate solutions. Luen looked at the sea in the distance with a grim look in his eyes. That's right. Shoot all those fishmen away. Luffy yelled angrily. Just chop them all up, right? Zoro's face was grim. Call. Sanji exhaled a puff of smoke, his eyes gloomy. Although he respected and blessed Miss Nami and Luen, they were still partners. Sanji will uphold his chivalry against those bastards who made Miss Nami so miserable. The first step to becoming a sea warrior. Usopp put on his goggles and loaded his special ammunition. When everyone, Nami covered her red lips, trying hard not to cry out. Controlling his trembling body, he stood behind Luen and gently rested his forehead on Luen's broad back. There was no longer anyone in front of her. Go ahead and kill them. Let these fishmen know what a real pirate is. Luen showed a cruel look. Oh, Eren Park. This is this month's. Take it. Eren looked at the mouse kernel in front of him, revealing a mouth full of shark fangs. Eren is a sawtooth shark man. Brother Along, you are really different from ordinary pirates. You really understand the ways of the world. Shichichi, the colonel of the 16th Navy branch, Colonel Mouse, looked at the money that Eren had pushed in front of him and burst into laughter. Ha ha, same to you. As long as you are willing to be my friend, you can enjoy endless sweetness in this East China Sea. Being able to understand this shows that you're also a smart naval captain. Eren threw his head back and laughed. I'm so sorry for all this time. The mouse colonel put the money into his arms. To read the exciting novels, go to Feilu Novel Network. Haha, why are you still talking about this now? Harmony brings wealth. Money is a good thing, more trustworthy than anything else. Am I right? Eren grinned at Colonel Mouse with a mouth full of shark fangs. Yes, that's right. Well, I'm leaving now. The mouse colonel's mouth twitched, and he stood up. He was really unhappy getting along with this group of fishmen, but he could still endure it for the sake of money. Once he got the money, he didn't want to stay there for a minute. Have a drink or two once in a while. It's a rare chance to relax. Eren grinned. It's not a good idea for a patrolling Navy ship to stop on a pirate island. Colonel Mouse quickly made an excuse to refuse. If anyone dares to report this to the headquarters, I will kill him. Eren showed a cruel look. Although this mouse colonel is a lowly human being, he is very important to him. If the Navy headquarters knew the details of what he was doing here, I'm afraid that the powerful Navy of the headquarters would come. The Navy of the headquarters is of a completely different level from that of the branch. When he thought of the Navy of the headquarters, Eren felt a dull pain in a wound. It was caused by Yellow Monkey Borsellino, who was then the Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters and is now the Admiral of the Navy headquarters. But with this guy here, he doesn't have to worry about the Navy headquarters knowing the details here. Then I'll have my men escort you. Eren looked at Colonel Mouse. Boom! Just as Colonel Mouse was about to leave, the gate of the Eren Empire exploded with a loud bang. Bang! Bang! Several soundless fishmen were thrown out from the dust like garbage and fell heavily to the ground. Who? The veins on Aaron's forehead bulged. How dare he hurt his dear compatriot? Don't worry, you're next, Aaron. The dust cleared, and several figures appeared in front of Aaron and others. Luen looked at Aaron coldly. Nami? What do you want to do? When Aaron saw Nami, his eyes were bloodshot. Sure enough, just like Luen said, you really colluded with the Navy. Aaron, is this why the government has been allowing you to do whatever you want here? Nami looked at Colonel Mouse, who had not left yet, and her whole body began to tremble. Exactly the same as what Luen said. If she hadn't met Luen when she had saved up the 100 million Baileys with great hope, but it was taken away by this group of Navy. Think of that scene. Nami bit her red lips tightly, her eyes filled with extreme hatred. You're talking about Colonel Mouse. He is our friend, Nami, and also your friend. As long as you continue to measure and make sea charts for me, I will forgive you for this matter. Aaron looked at Luen and others with ferocious eyes. As for you, you dare to hurt my dear compatriots. All of you die here. Aaron showed a cruel look. Aaron suddenly felt something was wrong and looked at Colonel Mouse beside him. At this moment, Colonel Mouse seemed to have seen something terrible. His face was full of fear and his whole body was trembling. Evan, Hibindi King Luen. Colonel Mouse looked at Luen in horror. If he just saw the person, he might not recognize him, but when he heard Nami say the name and saw Luen in person, Colonel Mouse recognized him. They appeared in the East China Sea and caused quite a stir in the headquarters. King Luen, is that you? Aaron looked at Luen suddenly, and cold sweat began to appear on his forehead. To maintain his rule, he also needs to understand the intelligence on the sea. News about the East China Sea is naturally what Aaron needs to pay special attention to. And what is the most eye-catching news in the East China Sea in recent days? Of course, it was the super rookie whose fame had surpassed that of the pirate hunter Roranoa Zoro. The king, Luen, the owner of the Conqueror's Hockey. As a former member of the Sun Pirates, Arlong knows what it means to possess the Conqueror's Hockey. That was a power that even Kizu, the current admiral of the Marine headquarters who had once severely injured him, had never possessed. The qualifications of a king. Aaron, why did you come to the East China Sea? Isn't it because this is the weakest sea and we can rule it better? The possessor of Conqueror's Hockey is a powerful figure who rules a region, even in the Grand Line. Hey, Nami, don't look so scary. I told you, as long as you save up 100 million berries, I will sell the village to you. Arlong stood up and smiled at Nami. Damn it. Nami, this little girl, actually hooked up with a person who possesses the domineering color domineering. Aaron cursed in his heart. And then, let this Navy take all my money away as stolen money? Seeing Aaron's attitude, Nami immediately realized that what Luen said was true. Aaron's attitude changed to such an extent just by hearing Luen's name. Even when Aaron's most valued compatriot was killed, he could still show such an expression. Compared to Luen, Aaron might not be a monster at all. Hearing Nami's question, Arlong's facial expression suddenly froze. This action was immediately caught by Nami. Sure enough, Aaron. Nami gritted her teeth in hatred, and her beautiful eyes turned blood red. Aaron, I really want to do this. Hey, I never said anything like that. Aaron was about to deny it when his pupils suddenly shrank. Whoosh, clang. With a metallic sound, a heavy black fist appeared in front of Aaron. Aaron's pupils trembled violently. Bang! With a teeth-grinding sound, Aaron was smashed heavily into the wall. Under the stunned gaze of the fish people, the building of Aaron Park collapsed under this terrible force. Brother Aaron, many fishmen cried out in horror. Colonel Mouse was terrified. We didn't come here to listen to your nonsense. As a piece of trash among pirates, you were ready to be killed, right? Arlong. Luen looked coldly at Aaron, who had struggled to crawl out of the ruins. Luen doesn't even plan to use his Conqueror's Hockey. He wanted to make these fishmen remember every bit of Nami's pain with their bodies. Ba, dominung. Aaron's most proud shark teeth were all broken by Luen's punch. Looking at the thick black color on Luen's fist, Aaron's eyes were filled with horror. Share Apollo 555 post views. 3 Chapter 50. This is the most suitable way to die. Nami's kiss, seeking a monthly flower vote. CH 50. Aaron looked at Luen, his eyes full of horror. Arlong, who was once a member of the Sun Pirates and was even captured by Kizaru and taken to impel down, of course knows this power, which is armament hockey. This is a power that is rarely seen in the first half of the Grand Line. And so strong. Aaron felt the pain in his body. His eyes were bloodshot. With just one blow, Aaron felt seriously injured, and his head even became a little fuzzy. After shaking his fuzzy head, Aaron suddenly opened his mouth, and the shark tooth that was smashed to pieces by Luen's punch was regenerated. Sawtooth Shark Man. Even if the shark teeth are smashed, they can continue to regenerate. Brother. Several cadres from Along's group immediately rushed forward. Etc. Aaron shouted in a low voice and stopped these cadres. After one punch, Aaron knew that he had no chance of winning. He used to be very arrogant, but ever since he was easily seriously injured by Kizaru using the power of the Pika Pika, know me, and felt powerless, Aaron knew that in this sea, he should not try to provoke those truly powerful people who were high above him. That's looking for death. Facing an owner of Conqueror's Hockey who also possesses such powerful armament hockey, he has no chance of winning. King Luen, you don't have to be so angry, right? Harmony brings wealth. And as a pirate, isn't money what you're after? In this way, we can cooperate and share the tributes from these territories. Of course, Nami's hometown will no longer have to pay tribute. How about that? Aaron tried hard to control his dislocated jaw and smiled. Nami looked at Aaron and felt incredible. His compatriots were killed, and Aaron himself was beaten so badly by Luen's punch. But Aaron even begged for peace with Luen in a servile manner. And a human who he had always spread the message that was inferior to the fishmen was begging for peace in such a servile manner. Nami looked at Luen in front of her 183, and tears flowed down her eyes. After years of grievances and pain, I can finally get rid of them. Money. Luen smiled coldly. How is it? Isn't this a good idea? With your domineering aura, we will definitely be able to rule the entire East China Sea. Bang! Puff! Blood foam, along with broken shark teeth, flew into the air. Woo-woo! Aaron was hit on the head by the domineering force again, and he almost fell into chaos, and his vision began to blur. Are you qualified to talk to me about what a pirate is? I will make you remember with your body what a real pirate is. Luen looked at Aaron, who was struggling under his feet, with a grim expression. Brother, those fishmen rushed up immediately. Stop getting in the way. Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji immediately rushed forward, knocked all of the fishmen's minions away, and then faced the cadres of Arlong's group. Usopp also took out special ammunition and attacked the remaining fishmen while roaring. Recover your teeth quickly, you Murloc bastard. Luen grabbed Aaron's head directly, and his grim look made Aaron, who was still dizzy, feel frightened. But damn it, even a rabbit bites when it is cornered. Aaron, who was insulted in this way, immediately grew his teeth again and bit towards Luen with his shark mouth. Bang! The shark's teeth shattered again, and even the most iconic serrated nose of the Sawtooth Shark Man was completely distorted by this punch. Recover, bastard. Luen's eyes were cold and grim. Aaron wanted to say something, but to speak he needed to restore his teeth, which had just been restored. Bang! Crack! Blood foam and broken shark teeth flew everywhere again. Go on, recover. This little pain is far from enough compared to Nami's suffering. Luen's gaze frightened Aaron. He once again recalled the feeling he had when facing Kizaru, the feeling of being unable to fight back, as powerless as a baby. Aaron didn't dare to restore his proud shark teeth. Once he restored them, he would be faced with a domineering fist. Bang! But the next moment, that pitch-black, domineering fist landed on his chin. Crack! With the clear sound of bones breaking, Aaron's eyes rolled back, and he flew into the air under the punch. Jaw broken. My brain is completely fuzzy. Bang! Luen's dark palm grabbed Aaron's head and lifted it up. It's not enough, bastard. You can't be so weak. Luen smiled grimly. Aaron was extremely miserable at this moment. The jaw was shattered, the teeth could not regenerate, and the iconic jagged nose was completely distorted. The whole face was covered in blood. Open your eyes and look carefully. Luen pressed Aaron's head to the ground and looked at the buildings of Aaron Park. Here, there's also the studio where Nami was forced to draw sea charts for Arlong and his gang, which contains Nami's painful memories. This kind of thing has no value in existence. Luen's eyes flashed a violent red and black. Bang! The domineering power was no longer reserved and all poured out. With a loud bang, the building collapsed. Boom! 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 Luen's figure kept flashing, and his domineering fists kept hitting down. The buildings of Along Park, the base camp that Along had carefully built, continued to collapse and turned into ruins. Aaron wanted to struggle to get up, but he was powerless. The domineering fist had made Aaron's consciousness begin to blur, and he was completely unable to control his body. Aaron could only struggle on the ground in pain, watching his hard work go to waste. When Nami, covering her red lips, watched all this. Although Luen didn't say it, she could understand what Luen meant. Luen wants to destroy all these buildings that hold her painful memories. Bang! With the last loud bang, the last building in Along Park also became a ruin. The battle between Luffy and others also came to an end. The three cadres of Aaron's group, the kissing fishman Jew, the octopus fishman Xiaoba, and the cartilage fishman Koby, were all defeated. The rest of the fishmen were also lying on the ground without a sound. Where are you going? Luen threw the frightened mouse colonel in front of Aaron with an evil expression. I'm a captain of the Navy branch. What are you going to do? I represent the Navy and the government. Colonel Mouse looked at Luen in fear. The monster like Aaron was as fragile as a baby who couldn't walk in front of the King Luen. Monster? This man is the real monster. You must have made a mistake. I am a pirate. Luen sowe da sinisterivol mai. Bang! Under the horrified gaze of the mouse colonel, a kick wrapped in the armed, color domineering, kicked him fiercely. Then, accompanied by the sharp sound of bone breaking, a terrible pain came. All the bones in Colonel Mouse's body were broken by this kick. Then his eyes rolled back and he lost his voice. Luen's angry kick killed this minion instantly, with all his bones and internal organs shattered. Call. Luen let out a breath, and his furious mood was finally released. Looking at Nami, Rune showed a smile as gentle as the sun. It's okay, Nami. Nami's nose felt sore, and she threw herself into Luen's arms. I don't say thank you to you. Nami's choked voice came from Luen's arms. Luen caressed Nami's hair lovingly. Because, you said, actions speak louder than words. Nami raised her pretty face and looked at Luen and talked about what Luen had said to her in Orange Town. Standing on tiptoe, Luen felt a warmth on his cheeks. Sanji looked at Luen with great envy. Then he lit a cigarette, and his eyes showed only blessings for Luen and Nami. Hey. Now we can go to the Grand Line. Luffy grinned. Duh. Just then, a noisy sound of footsteps was heard. To read the exciting novel, go to Falun Novel Network. When Nami heard the voice, she looked and saw Nojiko and Mr. Aegean, along with the villagers holding weapons, staring at her in amazement. Nami's pretty face suddenly turned frighteningly red, and she escaped from Luen's arms. No, Nokigao, Mr. Aegean, everyone, why are you here? Nami stuttered as she looked at the people in Cocoa Village. We heard that you and your companions were fighting with Arlong and his gang, so we rushed over immediately. What on earth happened here, Nami? Aegean originally wanted to ask Nami about the identities of Luen and the others, but the current scene in Aaron Park was too shocking. All the fishmen fell down without a sound. Aaron, who no one could resist, fell to the ground with blood on his face like a dead dog. He looked extremely miserable. His face was covered in blood and was completely deformed. You guys don't blame me? Nami looked at Mr. Aegean and the concerned eyes of the villagers of Kokoyasi village and bit her red lips. Nami thought that the villagers and Mr. Ken didn't know about her. We already knew that, Nami. You're working hard for us. I have an agreement with Aaron to earn 100 million Baileys. Aegean took a deep breath and looked at Nami, who had an incredible look on her face. It's just that we don't want you to remember that you have to bear our expectations when you want to escape from Aaron's group. That is too heavy for you. You should live freely. Aegean looked at Nami. his eyes full of heartache. He regards Nami and Nojiko as his daughters. His daughter had to bear such a heavy burden and suffer so much, all because of his uselessness. But at least, he didn't want to be a burden to Nami. Mr. Aegean's words and the concerned looks of the villagers made Nami's eyes red. Nami, won't you introduce yourself to us? Nojiko looked at Luen. Just now, Nami was in this man's arms. Luen. Luen introduced himself with a smile. Luffy, Nami's partner. Luffy yelled, Zoran, Sanji, Usopp. Zoro and others were introduced one by one. They're all my friends, pirates. Arlong and his gang have been defeated by them. Nami's smile, so brilliant. Pirates. Hearing this sensitive word, Noki Gao, Mr. Aegean and many villagers were shocked. Then you looked at me. I looked at you, and then suddenly looked at Luen and others. Welcome. Thank you. Nuikigo, Mr. Aegean and many villagers suddenly had tears in their eyes. To be able to make Nami say the word pirate with such a happy smile, Nami's knot has been completely untied. Nothing can make them happier than this. Nami, you should just smile happily like this and live freely. There is one more repertoire. Luen turned and looked at Eren. Boom! Luen's pupils suddenly condensed, and a terrifying aura swept over Eren's body. Eren, who was still struggling on the ground, rolled his eyes and fainted completely. Domineering color, domineering. This was the fearful mumbling that remained in Eren's mind before he passed out. Plunder. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several rays of purple light were taken away from Eren and the three cadres and were obtained by Luen. Transformation. Luen gave the order without even looking at the entries on the fishmen. It is useless for Luen to get the entry of the Murloc, so just convert it directly. After the transformation of Eren's entries, Luen obtained 3 deep purple level threshold entries. The remaining 3 cadres, after transformation, contributed a total of 2 deep purple level threshold entries to Luen. Although Xiao Ba is related to Pluto Rayleigh, Luen still takes away his power. Even if Xiao Ba did not directly participate in the killing of the villagers by the fishmen, he was still an accomplice. If you make a mistake, you have to bear the consequences. The reason why he was spared was because Xiao Ba did not directly participate in the killings, had a good nature, and also for Rayleigh's sake. Luen will be of great use to Rayleigh's reputation in the future. But giving face does not mean indulgence. Luen is also a king. Xiao Ba's power was robbed, and he couldn't escape. Eren and 3 cadres helped Luen obtain 5 deep purple level entries in total. The rest of the Murloc minions all have blue attributes, so Luen is useless. There are enough upgrade materials to evolve Superman Warcraft physique, deep purple, to super purple level entries. Gurgle. As the villagers looked on in disbelief, Eren and the others who had the terrifying bodies of fishmen squirmed all their muscles, and then, like a deflated ball, they completely lost their strength. Wake it up, Usopp. When looked at Usopp, this was what Usopp was best at. Leave it to me. Usopp patted his chest. Under Usopp's torment, Arlong slowly woke up. Woo-woo. Eren looked at Luen in fear. But then, Eren suddenly froze. His pupils contracted violently, and he was overwhelmed by great fear. Its power? What about the instincts of being a noble sawtooth shark man? Eren wants to regenerate his teeth, but it no longer has the ability to do so. I heard that you believe that fishmen who can breathe in the sea are naturally stronger than humans and are a noble race, right? Luen looked at Eren and smiled. 1.2 This smile, in Eren's eyes, was so terrifying. Bang! Luen kicked Eren into the passage connecting Eren Park to the sea. As the base camp of the mermen, there is a special passage connecting to the sea outside. Plop! An incredible scene happened. Eren, a fishman, actually sank to the bottom after entering the sea. I can't breathe. Eren, who was kicked into the sea, felt an extreme fear in his heart that could not be described in words. As a merman, he can breathe and swim freely in the sea. This is what it claims is an important reason why mermen are nobler than humans. But now it can't breathe in the sea. What did that man do to it? But there was no time for Eren to think about this problem. The pain of suffocation made Aaron's consciousness gradually blurred in this extreme fear. Then, it fell into darkness. Snort. Luen est mutkel dup. Drowning is a very suitable way for a bastard like Aaron to die. Luen deprived him of everything he had as a sawtooth shark man. Not only his strength and physique, but even his gills shrank and disappeared, and his ability to swim was also deprived by Luen. Aaron could no longer breathe or swim in the sea. Alive in the sea drowned. Call. The clouds in the sky suddenly dispersed at this moment. The warm sunshine shines on the ruins of a long paradise. But in the eyes of the people of Kikoyasi village, the sunshine shining on this dilapidated place is so full of hope. The sky is clear. Nami's loadable entry has been updated. Select Loading Climate Perception, Light Gold. Loading completed. A screen of light that only Luen could see appeared before his eyes. The bond between Luen and Nami has already been full. Climate Perception, Light Gold. Instantly, loading completed. Share, Apollo 555 post views. 3 Chapter 51, Upgrade Stream. Windmill, same Tangerine. CH51. In the past, under the violent rule of Along and his gang, the atmosphere in Kekiaxi village was extremely bleak. It's extremely lively today. The villagers brought out all the delicious food and fine wine they could, and had a banquet with happy smiles on their faces. Because the pirates, Arlong and his gang, who ruled this place violently, have been completely wiped out. All the Murlocs who followed Aaron in doing evil were thrown into the sea. The Murlocs whose physique was completely deprived by Luen could only be drowned in the sea. These fishmen who believed in Aaron's words that fishmen were naturally nobler than humans because they could breathe freely in the sea. Finally, he suffocated to death in the sea. There were a few people like Xiao Ba who did not participate in killing and oppressing the people, and sometimes even stopped the mad Aaron from killing the merfolk. As for them, after everyone in Kokoxi village discussed it, Luen preserved the merfolk's ability to breathe in the sea and gave them a way to live. Aaron is extremely violent and cruel. He regards humans as inferior creatures and is always ready to massacre an entire village. As for these few fishmen, whether it was to have a place to continue collecting tribute or because a very small number of them were not bad by nature, in the end, it prevented Aaron from killing a lot. After the villagers of Kokoyasi gained their freedom, what they hoped most was that Nami, who had been carrying their hopes for so many years, could be happy and free. They didn't want Nami's precious kind heart to be tainted by any flaws due to excessive killing. Nami shouldn't bear anything for them anymore. Nami should live freely on the sea for herself from now on, and Luen naturally respected this decision. Nami, from now on, all you have to do is live happily and freely. Looking at Luen and others who were enjoying the banquet, everyone in Kokoxi village had gratitude in their eyes. Hee, what a happy party. Luffy stuffed his mouth full and grinned. Little brother, you should eat more and tell me more about you and Nami. No Jigo pushed a glass of orange wine to Luen and looked at Luen and Nami with a smile. Nachigo. Nami's face turned red. Okay, I won't ask anymore. When no Jigo saw Nami's expression, he smiled even more happily. Some things, even if you don't say them, you already have the answers. Nami, because of her experiences since childhood, had to carry everything on her shoulders, so how could she be so weak and shy? It seems that Nami really likes this Luen. No Jigo smiled with relief. It was possible for Nami, who had experienced such pain and hated pirates to the core, to happily say that they were pirates. She felt relieved to leave Nami to Luen. Here it comes, the meat of the Sea King. The highlight of today's banquet was the Sea King, Moo, raised by Arlong and his gang, which was cooked by Sanji. This Sea King often followed Along and his gang to plow the fields and destroyed the villages that resisted Along's rule. Luen would naturally not let this Sea King go and killed it directly to eat its meat. The meat of Sea Kings is still very rare in the East China Sea. It's finally here. Luen suddenly became very interested. Sea Kings are very special existences in the world of pirates. The power of Poseidon, one of the 3 ancient weapons, is the ability to command all Sea Kings in the ocean, and is said to have the power to destroy the world. In the depths of the ocean, there are supergiant sea kings with a body size of over 5,000 meters. If sea kings of that size unite, they can create terrible waves. However, the sea kings in the East China Sea are much smaller, but still very large compared to other creatures. It tastes really good. The freshness and taste of the ingredients are perfectly brought out. As expected of you, Sanji, you can cook any food so deliciously. Luen threw a large piece of sea beef into his mouth and exclaimed in admiration. Very wonderful taste. It has the taste of beef and the freshness of fish. With Sanji's cooking skills, the deliciousness and taste of the sea beef are brought to the extreme. With a chef like Sanji, eating sea monsters is definitely an ultimate enjoyment. Of course, for Luen, the nutrition in the meat of sea kings is even more important. Well, of course, Sanji suddenly smiled. Luen's words were pleasant to the ears, and his comments on his cooking were very accurate. He was truly a close friend. Luen also smiled as he looked at the slightly increased loading progress of the modified exoskeleton entry. As expected of the Sea Kings in the One Piece world, they are really nutritious. Then, Luen used his Superman monster physique, dark purple, to digest the nutrients in the sea beef, feeling the improvement in his physical strength and the corners of his mouth curled up. The reason why humans in the One Piece world are so strong is that the meat in the One Piece world is extremely nutritious. The nutrition in Sea Kings is even more exaggerated. No wonder the physiques of those top strong men can be cultivated to that level. They can use their abilities in domineering battles, and the battles can take days at a time. Strengthen. With such nutritious sea beef, Luen doesn't have to worry about malnutrition and gives instructions in his mind. Strengthen the superhuman monster physique, deep purple. Enhancement successful. The entry level has been advanced to super purple level. A line of light screens that only Luen could see appeared. A feeling of hunger much greater than the last time suddenly came, but with the manatee, this was naturally not a problem. As Luen ate heartily, his remaining stamina was quickly replenished. After eating, feeling the surge in strength and stamina, Luen's mouth curled up slightly. Of course, as the Superman monster physique advances to the ultra-purple level, under the effect of Born for the Sea, Ultra Gold, Luen's armament haki also becomes stronger. However, it is still at the super purple level. After all, in order to advance the armament haki to the light gold level, the combat power threshold is the Vice Admiral of the Marine Headquarters. The physique must also reach the light gold level. Of course, for others, even if their physique reaches the light gold level, they still need to practice hard to reach the light gold level. As for Rune, who has awakened Conqueror's haki and possesses the Born for the Sea, Super Gold, attribute, he only needs to reach the light gold level for his physical fitness and armament haki to advance automatically. A domineering practice cheating device, worthy of its name. Although he has not advanced to the light gold level, Luen's current armament color domineering strength is already sufficient. It is enough for me to get Smoker's natural smoke fruit. Luen's mouth curled up slightly. Although the smoke fruit is not strong in the natural system, Luen is very much looking forward to obtaining his first devil fruit ability. Luen, try this. Unlike Nokigo and the villagers who were stunned by Rune's appetite, Nami was already used to Rune's appetite. Nami carefully handed an orange to Luen, looking at him with anticipation on her pretty face. This is the orange bar in Belmare Orange Orchard. Luen took the orange from Nami's hand, and a hint of understanding flashed in his eyes. Luen peeled the orange, carefully put one slice of flesh in his mouth, and chewed it carefully. Delicious. This is the best orange I have ever eaten. Luen smiled from the bottom of his heart and looked at Nami lovingly. This orange contains Nami's longing for her adoptive mother, Belmere. Even if his adoptive mother was killed, he was still able to buy his hometown back from Along and carry the hopes of everyone in his hometown on his shoulders. It also contains Nami's feelings. Luen, you can understand Nami's feelings without Nami telling you. Nami, of course, didn't need Luen to tell her what he meant by this, and her eyes narrowed as she smiled. Today was the happiest day for her since Belmere's death. Luen, Nami, look, Luffy suddenly yelled incoherently. Nami and Luen looked over immediately after hearing that. How is it? Joseph taught us the nostril chopstick dance. He. Luffy and Usopp put their arms around each other's shoulders and smiled vaguely. There were two chopsticks stuck in Luffy and Usopp's nostrils, extending all the way to their mouths. Ha ha ha. Nami looked at this funny scene, her red lips slightly raised, and finally she burst into laughter, laughing so hard that tears came out. Ha ha ha. That's great, fellow pirates. Keep going. The villagers of Kokoyasi village also laughed when they saw Luffy and Usopp's dance, and they laughed so hard that tears came out. It's not just about watching Luffy and Usopp's antics, but also about the joy of being liberated from so many years of pain. How about this? The atmosphere was lively. Luffy and Usopp simply jumped onto a table, put their arms around each other's shoulders, and danced a dance whose meaning was unclear but was extremely funny and comical when combined with a nostril chopstick dance. Ha ha ha! Laughter and joy filled the banquet. Ha ha, you two idiots, what are you doing? Zoro also laughed while holding his drink. Ha ha! To read exciting novels, go to Luen Novel Network. Sanji couldn't help but burst out laughing. Luen couldn't help laughing and clapped his hands. This is the party after the pirates' victory. A party should be a happy one. After a long quarrel at the banquet, Zoro's wound started bleeding again, and he was thrown into the clinic here by Luen for treatment. This is really reckless. He went to fight despite being so badly injured. After the fight, he didn't come for treatment immediately, but went to attend the banquet. If you hadn't made such a fuss and the wound hadn't burst open and bled, would you have planned to never see a doctor? Don't you have a ship's doctor? Nabal, the best doctor here, was stitching up the wound on Zoro that was caused by Hawkeye. It's just a minor injury. Just eat and drink more. There was sweat on Zoro's forehead, but he still remained very tough. Ship's doctor? Sounds good, but we still have to find a musician first. Outside the door, Luffy, holding a few pieces of meat, suddenly stuck his head in and grinned. Why? Looking at this unreliable captain, Zoro, who was already enduring the pain of stitching his wounds, twitched at the corners of his mouth. Because all pirates have to sing. Luffy grinned. I'm asking you why you went to the musician first, you idiot. Zoro yelled. A doctor is more important than a musician, no matter how you think about it. Let Luen decide the order when the time comes. According to Luen, ship doctors and musicians are needed. Luffy grinned. The villagers were still having a party, but on a very quiet hillside, Nami was facing a tombstone with her hands clasped together. You said, I'm going to be a pirate. If Belmir knew, would he agree? Nami looked up at the blue sky, and it seemed as if Belmir was looking at her from above. Not far behind Nami, Aegean and Nojiko stood silently. Of course not. How could she let her beloved daughter become a pirate? Aegean speaks frankly. No, she will. Nojiko smiled. And even if she disagrees, can you obey her? Nojiko's smile grew even brighter. Absolutely not. Nami made a face and smiled mischievously. Just like when she was little, naughty and disobedient, facing Belmir. Ha ha ha. You really are Belmir's daughters. Aegean suddenly burst into laughter. Go live your life in your own way. Belmir wants you to be happy rather than being obedient. Looking at Belmir's tombstone, Aegean had tears in his eyes. Of course, I am very happy now. Nami stood up and shouted towards the sea. Then he turned his head and looked at the figure a little further away from them. Luen stood there silently, accompanying her. Nami knew that this was the space Luen left for her and her family. Luen, let's go. Nami smiled. Wait, can I talk to you alone for a few words, Luen? Aegean suddenly said. Certainly. Luen glanced at Aegean and smiled. Then we'll go first. Nami covered the pattern of Arlong and his gang on her left arm. Luen knew that Nami was going to remove the tattoo. Yeah, 090-inch Luen didn't say anything, but just smiled gently and watched Nami and Nojiko talk happily as they left. After Nami disappeared, Luen and Aegean were silent for a long time. Aegean moved his lips and spoke with difficulty. Nami, I'm leaving it to you. His hoarse voice revealed the love and care he had for Nami, like a daughter. I know you're strong, but if you make Nami lose her smile, I will kill you no matter where you are. Remember this. With tears in his eyes, Aegeon spoke loudly to Luen, and Luen said nothing. He simply placed his right hand lightly on the shoulder of this man, with terrible scars all over his body. Although he could not do anything due to his weakness, he did everything he could and protected Nami like a father. There is no need for words between men. Just a simple action is the best commitment. Aegeon wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, smiled with relief, and walked towards the village. Luen looked at Belmir's tombstone, clasped his hands together, closed his eyes, and bowed deeply 3 times. Using the etiquette of the Dragon Kingdom, I promised to the sleeping Belmir, Nami, he would take care of it. Let Nami live freely and happily on the sea. Belmir's house. Nami, whose tattoo on her left arm had turned into a windmill and an orange, was holding a sea chart, and next to it was a large package containing nearly 100 million berries that she had saved over the years. The studio in a lone park that held her pain had been destroyed by Luen. Now the only nautical chart left in Nami's hand is this one. This is the first nautical chart she drew, and it has been approved by Belmir. It's over, Belmir. It took 8 years, but I'm free. Everyone laughed heartily from the bottom of their hearts. It's just like you said, as long as you survive, good things will happen. Nami held the nautical chart tightly and looked at the room, as if she was talking to Belmir. I'm leaving this island. Don't worry, everyone is fine. And Luen, this time, I want to draw a nautical chart for my dream. I want to travel around the world with them, and Luen, this is my dream. Nami's beautiful eyes were filled with tears. So, I don't know when I can return to this island. I'm leaving now. Nami wiped the tears from her eyes and slowly walked out the door without taking the nearly 100 million Baileys. These nearly 100 million Baileys were left by her for the villagers. Bang! Just as Nami was about to step out of the house, she felt someone push her gently. Belmir. Nami turned her head and looked at the empty room, but her heart was filled with love. I'm off. Nami smiled brightly. Be careful along the way. Belmir's portrait was facing Nami's departing back. Belmir in the photo smiles so brightly. I love you post views. 5 Chapter 52. Shooting and blowing up the bounty. Who doesn't know the name of gratitude? CH 52. At the port, the villagers were helping Luen and the others load enough supplies for the voyage onto the Mary. In addition, Belmir's orange trees were also planted on the Mary. Are you all ready now? Luen looked at Sanji. There is no problem with a nutritional guarantee. Sanji said, it is his duty to ensure nutrition for his companions during the voyage. With the addition of Luen, a big eater who eats even more than Luffy, Sanji had to prepare more ingredients. However, Sanji not only did not find it troublesome, but he also prepared the nutritional combination for Luen very seriously, because it was such a pleasure to let Luen taste his cooking. Needless to say, that bastard can't say anything nice. Luffy just kept eating and at most shouted delicious a few times. Usopp would say a few more words, but bragging has become an instinct for Usopp, so his words are too exaggerated and miss the point. Only Luen could give his dishes extremely high praise in terms of color, aroma, taste, and every aspect, and every evaluation could also point out the strengths of his dishes. This feeling is really wonderful for a chef who regards cooking as his life. By the way, where's Nami? Usopp looked at Luen curiously. She'll be here in a minute. Nami, with her own way of saying goodbye. Luen laughed. What? Nami is leaving without that money. Under the boat, Kin's eyes widened when he learned from Nojiko that Nami was leaving without taking any money. How can this be possible? Nami worked hard to earn that money. Nabal, who healed Zoro's wounds, also shouted. She said she could still steal. You should know that Nami's decision won't change, right? Nojiko was also somewhat helpless. Nami loves money, because money is Nami's hope to save her hometown. But compared to money, Nami loves her family more. That idiot, we should be grateful to her. Aegeon looked guilty. It didn't help much, so it was fine that Nami had to shoulder everything. After all, if they fought hard, it would be a betrayal of Nami's feelings and make her sad. But how can they keep this money? Tap, Tall. Just then, the sound of footsteps was heard. Here I come. Luen looked at Nami. Nami. Hearing the noise, the villagers of Kokoyasi village all looked at Nami. Hurry up and start the boat. Nami yelled as she lowered her head, not looking at the villagers. Then, Nami suddenly ran towards Ameri. What happened? Why did Nami suddenly run? Usopp was confused. Since the navigator has said so, of course we have to set sail. Nami has the final say on the sailing of this ship. Luen laughed. That's right. Luffy yelled. Zoro immediately pulled up the anchor, and Usopp and Sanji also performed their duties. Nami, this girl, is she leaving without waiting for us to thank her and say goodbye? Aegean, who had watched Nami grow up, immediately understood what Nami meant. How could this happen? The villagers looked shocked. They also wanted to thank Nami and say goodbye to her properly. Set sail, with Luffy's shout. The Mary opened the mainsail and left the port. They really sailed. Wait a minute. We haven't thanked you properly yet. The villagers shouted again and again. But Nami had already rushed in front of them and was a little overwhelmed. He didn't know which villagers to thank, so they could only stop Nami first. Wait, at least let us thank you properly before leaving. An uncle wants to stop Nami. Nami, I will never allow you to separate from us so casually. Ken yelled at Nami. Luen, is it okay for Miss Nami to leave like this? Sanji looked at Luen. What does it matter? Nami, you are free now. Luen looked at Nami running, with a smile on his face. The next moment, Nami rushed into the crowd of villagers, using the skills of pirate thief, Blue, to constantly shuttle through the crowd. The villagers couldn't stop Nami at all. Despair. Nami pushed through the crowd and leaped towards the Mary that had already left the port. Nami! Nojiko looked at Nami's dangerous behavior and shouted out in worry. But the next moment, Nojigo felt relieved. What a mess. Luen stood at the edge of the deck, opened his arms, caught Nami who was rushing over, and looked at her lovingly. Because you said I was free. Nami looked at Luen and smiled, then left Luen's arms and turned her back to the many villagers at the port. Call! Nami shook her clothes gently, and countless wallets fell out. Everyone, take care. Nami took out the bills and turned to look at the villagers with a mischievous smile. Ah, our wallets. You're so brave, little brat. You little thief. The villagers discovered this one after another, and then shouted loudly. But as they shouted, it turned into take care, Nami. Be happy, Nami. Thank you so much. Nami smiled. This was indeed a fitting farewell for her. Goodbye, everyone. I'm leaving. Nami's eyes narrowed with laughter, and she waved at the villagers. I really admire her. My sister's really amazing. Be happy. Nokigo laughed out loud. Huh. Aegean smiled and sat down. Look at Nami smiling. She looks so happy. Aegean also smiled. Be happy, Nami. Marine headquarters. Marine Ford. Here, the most elite Marines gathered. The Marine headquarters, the 7 warlords of the sea, and the 4 emperors constitute the 3 major forces that maintain the balance of the ocean today. The Marine headquarters and the 7 warlords of the sea, who nominally belong to the world government, are fighting against the pirate forces led by the 4 emperors. However, the 4 emperors each rule their own territories, and in terms of individual forces, the Marine headquarters is undoubtedly the strongest among them. In a room, there were 3 bounty notices posted on a bounty notice board. On both sides of the bulletin board, there were 2 rows of officers from the Navy headquarters sitting in order. Each of them had scars on their faces from fighting with pirates. Unlike the branches, the Marine headquarters faces pirates from the Grand Line and even the 4 emperors of the New World. The ranks of officers here are completely different from those in the branch. Each of them exudes a murderous aura. So, they're no longer something the branch can handle. The Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters, Huashishin, said in a deep voice. That's right. Brano, a lieutenant commander at the Navy headquarters who was in charge of announcing the bounty, pointed at the notice board. Ever since they defeated Branch Captain Monka before they formed the pirate group, their momentum has been rising, and it is impossible to stop them. Buggy the Clown, bounty 15 million Baileys, the admiral of the pirate fleet, Leader Crick, has a bounty of 17 million berries. Fishman Pirates, Sawtooth Dragon, 20 million belly. Branu looked at the bounty posted on the bulletin board. In the East Sea, where the average bounty is only 3 million berries, they're all big pirates with bounties exceeding 10 million berries. But they were defeated. Branu yelled, especially, to read exciting novels, go to Falun Novel Network. A reward poster was posted on the bulletin board. It was reported by the World Economic News Agency before, and it already has great fame. The owner of Conqueror's Hockey, before defeating Click, this man even had a Conqueror's Hockey clash with one of the 7 warlords of the sea, Hawkeye Myhawk. This man's ability is unstoppable, Branu said in a deep voice. Heroic hockey. The officers and soldiers of the naval headquarters present had extremely solemn expressions in their eyes, and some of them even had sweat on their foreheads. That is the qualification of king, which even the 3 most powerful admirals of their navy headquarters do not have. Every awakened person is a powerful figure who controls a region in the Grand Line. The bounty on this man has always been controversial, but this time, this man and Hawkeye Myhawk's domineering color collided with each other. Moreover, the brutal killing of Colonel Mouse of the 16th branch of the East China Sea Navy made us offer this reward. This is the first time a bounty has been offered, and reaching this amount is a special case in this world. But in our judgment, this number is definitely not too high. Such terrible evil trends must be extinguished as soon as possible. Branu pointed at the bounty. That's right. The Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters expressed his approval of the man who came here to burn the mountain. Lieutenant General Ghost Spider. How is it? Huashishin looked at the Ghost Spider opposite. Huashishin is a dove in the Navy, while Ghost Spider is a hawk in the Navy. The bounty for the super rookie who possesses Conqueror's Hockey must be decided by the Vice Admirals of the 2 factions' naval headquarters. No objection. Such a dangerous person. This evil must be extinguished as soon as possible. Ghost Spider, with a gloomy face, nodded slowly. If he hadn't had any reservations, he would have wanted to personally arrest this evil seed. Well, the bounty amount is set. Let the world know. King Luen, no matter if he lives or dies. Bounty, 100 million Baileys. Branu shouted. Then, the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, the user of the rubber gum fruit, the Straw Hat Boy, Monkey D. Luffy, who could be recognized by this man, has a bounty of 45 million Baileys. Inform the world and extinguish this evil flame as soon as possible. Ziluobu Village. Little Miss. Melly stumbled into Kia's study. What's wrong? Mary, you look so flustered. Kia, who was wearing glasses and reading a picture, looked up. Kia was waiting for Luen to come back. When her body recovered, she wanted to go to many places with Luen. Just by looking at these sea charts, Kaya had pictures in her mind. Of course, having never been to the sea, Kaya couldn't imagine the scenery outside the sea. But where to go was not important. The key was who to go with. Luen's appearance was very clear in Kia's mind. Please look at this. Mary took out 2 bounty warrants. Luen. When Kia saw Luen's bounty order, she immediately stood up and took Luen's bounty order. Because Colonel Mouse was killed by Luen, the photo of Luen on the bounty order is still the one taken by the World Economic News Agency. And the photo of Luffy also became the one taken by the World Economic News Agency. Kia came to the window, opened it, and looked at the sea in the distance. Luen's bounty order was placed at the top of Kaya's heart. Luen, I'll wait for you. Wait for you to take me to the sea. Kia held Luen's bounty order tightly. Looking at the sea in the distance, her eyes narrowed with a smile. Barty. The bounty posters for Luen and Luffy were posted in the most conspicuous place. After arranging the preparation of the food, Japu came to the deck and looked at the sea. Such a bounty is worthy of that man. Sanji, follow them and realize your dream. Zeph smiled. An unknown island. Hey, who is that guy? 2 pirates were observing the distant sea with binoculars when one of them suddenly exclaimed, He is. Another person hurried over, and when he saw the man's appearance clearly, his forehead was covered with cold sweat. Hawkeye, what are you doing here? A group of pirates surrounded Hawkeye. Don't make a noise. I'm not here to look for you. We're the cadres. Hawkeye said, Boss. A pirate rolled and crawled towards the depths of the island. Boss! Hawkeye! The pirate yelled at a man with red hair, missing his left arm and with his head hanging down. For emperors. Red-haired Shanks. Hey, Hawkeye, what a rare visitor. The redhead hung his head with a gloomy look. Hawkeye, without knowing when, had arrived in front of the red-haired man. I'm not feeling well right now. Are you here to challenge me to a duel? The redhead didn't even raise his head. I don't want to fight with a guy like you who lost his left arm. Besides, you are hung over. Hawkeye took out 2 bounty warrants. I met that interesting kid you once mentioned in the East China Sea. Ha ha ha. Luffy, has a bounty been placed on your head? When the red-haired man heard this, he looked up, looked at Luffy's bounty, and laughed. Because of the report from the World Economic News, Red Hair learned in advance about Luffy's voyage. However, there's another pirate who concerns me more. Hawkeye unfolds another bounty. 100 million Baileys? This wasn't the first time the red-haired man had seen Luen. Red Hair had seen it in the World Economic News Agency a long time ago. But this bounty still surprised Red Hair. 100 million Baileys. This bounty is very special. The new pirates who make their debut in the Four Seas will reach a unified location, the Sabeti Archipelago, after sailing through the first half of the Grand Line. And when he first entered the Grand Line and arrived at the Sabeti Archipelago, the new pirate who quickly rose to prominence had a bounty of over 100 million Baileys and was called the Super Rookie Star. This is a bounty that only the best pirates of the same period, who have sailed through the first half of the Grand Line, can receive. And before Luen even entered the Grand Line, he was offered a bounty of 100 million berries. This was the first time in history. It is no exaggeration to call it explosive news. That young man and I had a conqueror hockey clash. That young man's future may be even more powerful than yours, Red Hair. Hawkeye looked at the redhead. In my mind, I recalled the scene when I had a clash of domineering aura with Luen. He saw in that young man the embryonic form of the late Pirate King Roger's domineering aura of conquering everything. Just like what he witnessed with his own eyes when the Pirate King Roger was executed. The light stood there, shining brightly. Oh, when the red-haired man heard Hawkeye's words, his eyes, which were a little dim due to the hangover, flashed with astonishing domineering power. Well, I'll have to look forward to it, but before that, the red-haired man looked at Hawkeye with an evil expression. Hawkeye's eyes narrowed. Drink, drink, drink. Drink it all up. I'm happy today. Drink more. Ha ha ha. The red-haired boy pulled Hawkeye and started celebrating. King, Luen. While asking Hawkeye not to refuse drinking, a flash of red and black appeared in the red-haired man's eyes. He was looking forward to receiving such an evaluation from Hawkeye and meeting Luen. And Luffy. The bounty on Luen and Luffy spread quickly throughout the world. In particular, Luen's bounty created a huge wave on the sea. With the World Economic News Agency's report in front of him and a huge amount of reward offered by the Navy. In addition, the World Economic News Agency once again focused on reporting Luen's performance, especially his clash with the 7 warlords of the sea, Hawkeye, which made Luen's reputation in the sea unparalleled. Before entering the Grand Line, he received a supernova-level bounty for the first time and collided with the 7 warlords of the sea. From today on this sea, who doesn't know the name of Heavenly King Luen? I love you. I love you post views. For sailing. Start by plundering the Koby entry. Chapter 53 at this time, after solving the Cocoa Village incident and forming a pirate group, Luen and others on the way to Road Town, the town near the entrance to the Grand Line, known as the beginning and the end, the town where the Pirate King was born and executed. On board the Mary. Snap. Nami, who had just bought a newspaper from Newsbird and complained about the price increase, was stunned when she saw 2 bounty notices falling out of the newspaper. Luen, Luffy, you've been put on a bounty. Nami yelled in panic. What? I got a bounty on my head. Luffy, who was still sitting in the exclusive special seat, rushed over excitedly. You look, I got a bounty on my head. 45 million Baileys. Luffy excitedly took his bounty and showed it to his friends. For pirates, nothing can better demonstrate their strength and fame than the bounty. Luffy dreams of having a high bounty. Zoro and Sanji also showed great fighting spirit. The bounty is a recognition of the pirate's strength. Since you're a pirate, of course you want to get a super high bounty. The reward for Luen is only 10 million Baileys? What a pity. Luffy picked up Rune's bounty order again and grinned as he was not good at math. 10 million? Luen? How is that possible? Sanji, Usopp, and Zoro all expressed their disbelief. They have all seen Luen's strength. He is far stronger than Luffy. How could the bounty of a person like Luen be so much less than that of Luffy? Let me see. Sanji took the bounty order for Rune from Luffy's hand and read it carefully. 1, 10, 100, 1,000 million. 10 million. Sanji counted the numbers on Luen's bounty order, and cold sweat gradually broke out on his forehead. Idiot. This isn't 10 million Baileys. Sanji looked horrified. This is 100 million Baileys. Sanji cried out in horror. 100 million Baileys. Hearing this terrifying number, Usopp's eyes popped out of his head in fear. 100 million. 100 million Baileys? Nami also covered her red lips, her face full of disbelief, and beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. What does 100 million Pele mean? Aaron, it's only 20 million Baileys, which is the highest bounty in the East China Sea. In the East China Sea, anyone with more than 10 million berries is truly a great pirate. Nami had never heard of any pirate in the East China Sea with a bounty of 100 million berries. Looking at Luen, Nami's beautiful eyes were also full of worry. This bounty, Luen, will probably be targeted by a powerful navy or pirates. 100 million Baileys? Luffy's eyes widened and he screamed. Luen's bounty is so much higher than his. Luffy looked at Rune's bounty order with some envy, then clenched his fist to cheer himself up. Luffy naturally doesn't get jealous of his partners, but instead uses this as motivation. He also wants to get a super high bounty. Catch up with Luen. Is it finally here? 100 million Baileys. Luen took his bounty order from Sanji with a smile on his face. This was the first time a bounty was offered, and Luen was quite satisfied with the reward. The capacity has been improved, and the strength of the Conqueror's haki has increased. A line of light screens appeared. Sure enough, the amount of a pirate's bounty can be used to increase one's weaponry, and thus one's domineering power. Looking at the exaggerated reactions of Sanji, Usopp, Luffy, and others, Rune's mouth curled up slightly. This feeling is quite good. The process of increasing the bounty, gaining equipment, and enhancing domineering power is also very consistent with the domineering power system that is similar to raising insects. The higher the bounty, the more powerful the navy and pirates who want to use the high bounty to become famous on the sea will be attracted. Those who can survive this process of raising insects will be able to possess greater dominance. 100 million Baileys. Hearing this astonishing number, even Zoro's eyes were solemn. As a former bounty hunter, Zoro knew too well what this bounty represented. Not to mention the East China Sea, the weakest sea, even in the Grand Line, this bounty can be called a great pirate. With such a bounty, what they will face in the future is not just the Navy of the branch, but also some minor characters. But the Navy headquarters, and those powerful pirates. Zoro felt his body's recovery after the training. Although he was still a little sore, he was able to continue exercising. Zoro, where are you going? Luffy asked curiously as he saw Zoro stand up and walk towards the cabin. Go practice. Zoro glanced at Rune and Luffy with a stern look in his eyes. He made a promise to Luen and Luffy. He will never lose again. You are about to face an enemy that is much stronger than before. You must cherish every minute and every second and use it to become stronger. I'll go with you. Luen understood what Zoro was thinking and smiled as well. I'm going too. I want to learn how to be domineering. Luffy also shouted, his eyes full of fighting spirit. The 100 million berries bounty from Rune ignited Luffy's fighting spirit. Today's meals are almost ready, so I'll go to CBFC to practice. Sanji took a deep breath and said seriously. Luen and the others made him embark on the path of pursuing his dreams. Although he is a chef, he also has to do his part for his partners. Yoshi, brothers, follow Luen and learn how to be domineering. Luffy pulled Zoro and Sanji over and yelled. The corners of Zoro and Sanji's mouths twitched a little, but seeing that Luffy was very interested, he would not let them go if they did not cooperate. Zoro and Sanji could only raise their fists in cooperation. However, Zoro and Sanji also had a gleam in their eyes. They must learn to be domineering. 4 dreams and ambitions. Also 4 partner. Bang, bang, bang. Accompanied by 3 loud bangs, Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro were smashed into the wall and couldn't get out for a long time. It hurts. Zoro, save me quickly. Luffy's head was embedded in the wall. Because it was made of rubber and had great stretchability, it was somewhat impossible to pull it out. I'm impressed by you. Zoro gasped and pulled Luffy's head out of the wall. It hurts, Skay. Luen, why do you feel stronger again? Luffy grimaced in pain and looked at Luen in amazement. Indeed, is stronger than before. Zoro's eyes were also extremely solemn. His injuries are almost healed, and with the addition of curly eyebrows. To read the exciting novel, go to Falu Novel Network. As a result, he still had no power to fight back in front of Luen. When the domineering spirit hits you, it's no joke. Sanji's forehead was covered in sweat, and he rubbed his calf. This is painful. You 3, remember the feeling of having your domineering spirit strike you. Luen looked at Luffy and the other 2 who had reached their limit, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. If they want to learn to be domineering, they have to rely on themselves. However, Luen's training is not over yet. Then Luen dispersed his domineering aura, put on the terrifying weight, and began to exercise. The physique is constantly strengthened under the effect of the superhuman monster physique, Super Purple. Superman monster physique is a fusion of Luffy's Superman physique and Zoro's monster physique. In terms of the speed of simply repairing bones and muscles, Luen is now about twice as fast as Sauron. Furthermore, as Luen's physique improved, the gap continued to widen. This is because the Superman monster physique also has an absorption ability that is even more terrifying than Luffy's Superman physique. The stronger the physique, the stronger the absorption capacity, which in turn makes Luen's ability to repair muscles and bone stronger. Combined with the powerful absorption ability that surpasses the superhuman physique, the speed at which Rune's physique is strengthened is about 5 times that of Luffy and Zoro alone. This entry was strengthening his body at an extremely terrifying speed, just as Luen had expected. Just these few days of training had raised Luen's superhuman monster physique to a deep purple level, and the speed at which it became stronger was extremely astonishing. Moreover, as Luen's physique grows stronger, Luen's absorption rate will be faster, thereby repairing muscles and bones faster. Luen can also increase the intensity of training, forming a virtuous circle. Superman Warcraft physique, the speed of strengthening the physical body. As Luen's physical body strengthened, not only did not slow down, but it was accelerating. Moreover, in the process of Luen strengthening his physique, he can also activate the ability of Born for the Sea to continuously enhance his domineering power. This feeling of being able to clearly feel the process of one's own strengthening is very wonderful. In a previous life on Blue Star, hard work does not necessarily lead to rewards. Now, as long as you practice hard, you can personally feel yourself getting stronger. This feeling is very fascinating. Luen was completely immersed in cultivation. Seeing Luen, who was already so strong and still practicing so hard, Zoro endured the pain in his body, took a huge barbell, simulated the action of chopping with a knife, and began to practice. While chopping, he was still recalling the feeling of being hit by Luen's domineering power. Try to master this feeling and learn how to be domineering. How can I become stronger? Luffy sat on the ground, tilting his head and thinking hard. His companions are working so hard. So as the captain, he must become stronger. As for Haki, Luffy also knows that he cannot learn it in a short period of time. Luffy is a thick-skinned person, but he is not stupid, and he has a clear understanding of himself. He, Ace, and Sabo were 3 brothers when they were young, but he was the dumbest among the 3 in terms of fighting talent. Even after eating the devil fruit, he couldn't beat Ace, who didn't eat the devil fruit. Moreover, his initial use of the rubber fruit was very poor. not to mention beating others. Luffy often tied himself up with his rubber body in the beginning. So Luffy knew clearly that he was not a genius. Zoro and the others could not learn Haki in a short time, so it was impossible for him to do so either. So the way to become stronger in a short period of time is to start with the devil fruit. This is his advantage over Luen and Zoro. Luffy stretched his arms and legs, thinking constantly. Luen, who was exercising, sensed all of this with his observation Haki. Have you started studying the abilities of the second and third gears? Luen thought to himself. Regarding the use of the abilities of Gear 2 and Gear 3, Luen did not give Luffy any hints. The use of this devil fruit based on a rubber body requires very high physical strength and will place a huge burden on Luffy's body. In the timeline of the original Judicial Island battle, it could be said that the first half of the Grand Line has already passed, and it is about to reach the Sabati archipelago. In that situation, Luffy's body couldn't handle using Gear 2 and Gear 3. We haven't entered the Grand Line yet, and Luffy's current physique is not strong enough to support the use of Gear 2 and Gear 3. So Luen didn't give Luffy any advice on the devil fruit, and he didn't need any advice. The abilities of devil fruits are actually fixed. The so-called development has been thrown into the trash by the author in the subsequent plot. The ability user only needs to strengthen his physique, and he will naturally be able to exert a stronger power from the devil fruit he eats. Until the devil fruit awakens, it becomes a bottleneck. After awakening, the devil fruit's ability reaches a peak. Let Luffy use the power of the devil fruit by himself, and then slowly master the power of Gear 2 and Gear 3. This use of devil fruit abilities can also make the user's physique stronger, because eating a devil fruit will change the body. Like Luffy, before Nico awakened, he was a rubber man. By continuously using the power of rubber, your physical fitness will naturally increase. Therefore, anyone who has eaten a combat-type devil fruit will have far superior physique and physical strength than those who have not eaten a devil fruit. This is also why, in the world of pirates where domineering determines the upper limit of strength, Luen must obtain a powerful devil fruit. The powerful devil fruit can give a user an extremely terrifying upper limit of physical strength. Moreover, the powerful devil fruit ability itself is also very powerful. When combined with domineering power, the upper limit of combat power must be greater than that of a simple domineering strongman. For example, in the Battle of Beehive Island, Garp clearly had a higher attack power and was able to completely suppress Aokiji when facing him, but he was still at a disadvantage in terms of physical strength and physique. Garp used so many terrible attacks of tyranny on Aokiji. In terms of attack power, because of tyranny, even with the ice fruit, Aokiji is much weaker than Garp. But Aokiji is able to use his strong physique and physical strength to ensure that he can stand and continue to fight with Garp. As for Garp, his combat power dropped rapidly after just one sneak attack from Shiryu. In the world of pirates, those who have super strong stamina and the ability to withstand attacks are almost all powerful devil fruit users. For Luen, who has the attribute of being born for the sea, a strong physique means a strong armament domineering. And even for the tyrant, although the enhancement does not require physical strength, the use of the tyrant does require physical strength as fuel. Therefore, the powerful devil fruit can greatly increase Luen's combat power limit. There is actually no restraint relationship between domineering and devil fruits, just like sea stone restrains devil fruit users. They are both a kind of power. Haki only gives the owner the power to attack the ability user. The powerful domineering power can defeat the weak devil fruit ability. But the powerful devil fruit ability can also defeat the weak domineering power. Only with super strong domineering power and super strong devil fruit ability can one have the strongest combat power limit in the world of pirates. Even a super powerful person like Red Hair and Roger, who has not eaten the devil fruit, has terrifying swordsmanship to supplement his domineering aura, thereby increasing his combat power limit. The upper limit of combat power of a person who only possesses domineering power is definitely lower than that of a person who has powerful devil fruit abilities, especially a person who has cultivated both domineering power and powerful power. Especially after the peak period, this gap will widen. Iron Fist Garp and Black Arm Zephyr are living examples. The smoke fruit is the first stepping stone for Rune to obtain a powerful devil fruit. While Luen was exercising, he used Born for the Sea to increase his domineering aura with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Sanji watched Luen and the others practicing hard. He did not practice anymore, but silently closed the door of the training room and slowly rolled up his sleeves. Enduring the pain in my body, I headed to the kitchen. Being a chef is his real job. While his partners are working hard to improve themselves, as a chef himself, he has to provide good nutritional support. However, while Sanji was cooking, while ensuring the taste, he was also recalling the feeling of Luen's domineering power hitting him. He also wanted to become stronger. Nami, on the other hand, would occasionally watch Luen's training through the window of the training room. And at other times, she would carefully observe the weather on the sea, ensure the smooth sailing of the Mary. Luen is working hard to become stronger, and as a navigator, she must ensure the smooth sailing. Usopp, on the other hand, adjusted the controls of the Mary according to Nami's instructions. In the Straw Hat Pirates, which still does not have a shipowner or helmsman, Usopp now works part-time as a shipowner and helmsman. The Mary was sailing smoothly under such circumstances. As Luen and the others continued to practice and become stronger, under Nami's near-perfect command, Rogue Town, here we are. Post views. 2 Sailing. Start by plundering the Koby entry. Chapter 54 Crack. The door to Luen's room was gently opened. A beautiful figure tiptoed in. Luen. Looking at Luen, who was sleeping soundly on the bed, Nami's eyes narrowed with a smile. The day before arriving at Rogue Town, Luen stopped exercising and has been sleeping ever since. This is the hidden effect of the Superman monster physique, Super Purple, that Luen discovered through practice. After accumulating a lot of fatigue through training, fighting, and sleeping for a long time can restore the body to its best condition and make it stronger. Just like ordinary people on Blue Star, if they want to improve their physique, they also improve it during sleep. Although Luen has a superhuman monster physique, Zoro has a monster physique, and Luffy also has a superhuman physique dash. But sleep is also necessary to relieve the accumulated fatigue in the body and make the efficiency of cultivation and strengthening higher. In the original work, after the war, Zoro and Luffy would sleep for extremely long periods of time, even for several days and nights. This is the reason. Nami carefully sat on the edge of Luen's bed and looked at Luen quietly. Looking at Luen, Nami recalled the whole process of her acquaintance with Luen and being saved by Luen. From acquaintance to understanding to Nami blushed slightly when she thought of the time she kissed Luen in Aaron Park. Thank you, Luen. Nami gently touched Luen's cheek, where she kissed him last time. But the next moment, Nami's pretty face suddenly turned red. Luen. Nami stuttered as she looked at Luen, who opened his eyes and looked at her. Good morning, good morning. The weather is really nice. I'm leaving now. Nami made up a lame excuse and tried to slip away. The next moment, Nami exclaimed and flew into the air. Looking at Luen's face so close to her, Nami could even feel Luen's breath, and her pretty face turned frighteningly red. Are you here to steal something, little thief? Luen looked at Nami's pretty face, and a doting smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. I won't steal your things. I'm here to wake you up. We'll be arriving at Rogue Town soon. I'll leave first. Nami shrank her neck and tried to slip away. Really? But why do I feel like you stole my things? Luen looked at Nami, whose pretty face was flushed, and said seriously. Nami was about to retort when she saw Luen pointing at the cheek she had just touched. You stole this. Luen pointed to his cheek and looked at Nami with a smile. You wanted to wake me up like this, right? Like we did in Kokoyasi village. Now you want to run away. Have you stolen something that belongs to me? Luen's mouth curled up slightly. Ooh, who said that? I just wanted to wake you up. Nami was speechless. It was because she was looking at Luen's sleeping face that she recalled the whole process from when she met Luen to when she saved her. She couldn't help herself, but Nami still wanted to make a final struggle. Nami, Luen, come and see. We're here at Rogue Town. At this moment, Luffy's sudden shout made Nami a little panicked. But Nami saw that Luen had no intention of letting her go, and her pretty face turned red. Because of her experience in Kokoyasi village, she had long since abandoned the appearance of a little girl. But when facing Luen, Nami always returns to the appearance of a little girl of her age. So, how about returning what you stole to me, little thief cat? The corners of Luen's mouth curved up. Feeling the warmth on his cheek and watching Nami running away, Luen smiled. Nami, so cute. Is that road town? After getting dressed, Luen walked onto the deck and looked at the small town on the island not far away. This is where the Pirate King was born and publicly executed, so it is called the town of beginning and end. In the past, this town was very chaotic. The location of Road Town is near the entrance to the Grand Line, and it is the last chance for pirates traveling to the Grand Line to resupply. It is also the place where the Pirate King was born and died, and many pirates come here to follow in the footsteps of the former Pirate King. This also resulted in constant conflicts and chaos among pirates, bounty hunters, and the Navy. But since the captain of the naval branch here became Smoker, everything has changed. A user of the natural devil fruit ability, he is invincible in the East China Sea. No pirate can escape Smoker's pursuit. It can be said that the East China Sea is now known as the weakest sea, and Smoker has contributed to this. After all, the pirates who can come here and go to the Grand Line are all the more powerful pirates in the East China Sea. After wiping out these pirates in one fell swoop, those left in the East China Sea were almost all mediocre people who had neither the ability nor the ambition to travel to the Grand Line. However, Smoker has become Luen's prey. Nami stole a glance at Luen, then felt Luen's gaze and quickly pretended nothing had happened, looking at Rogue Town. Luen found a little funny to see Nami's cute and secretive look. Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, and Sanji all smiled as they looked at Rogue Town. From here on, they will officially embark on the Grand Route. Their dreams will also officially set sail. Soon, Luen and others reached the shore. What a big town! Luffy looked at the prosperous Rogue Town and grinned. I want to take a look at the Pirate King's execution platform. Luffy smiled excitedly, and before Luen and the others could answer, he rushed towards Rogue Town. Hey, Luffy, we haven't confirmed the meeting place yet. Usopp yelled after him, but Luffy had already disappeared into the crowd. Really? This guy is still so thick-skinned. Usopp looked helpless. Let him be happy. We will also go to replenish supplies. This is the last supply before entering the Grand Line. Luen smiled. Although I don't know if the buggy pirates came here for revenge, as in the original story, but Luffy's father, Monkey D. Dragon, must have come here. Even if Luffy is caught and publicly executed by Buggy like in the original work, there is no need to worry, because Dragon will help Luffy settle everything. Rune, not interested in GOLD. Roger's execution platform. Let's Luffy make trouble on his own. I'm going to buy 2 knives. Solon said. As he is about to enter the Grand Line, as a master of 3 swords, he must complete his 3 swords. Buy a knife? Do you have the money, Zoro? When Nami heard what Zoro said, her eyes suddenly lit up, and she showed a profiteer expression. No, I haven't. When Zoro heard the word money, the corners of his mouth twitched. I can lend it to you. Nami's words made Zoro overjoyed. Nami is a good girl, but she can still do it at the critical moment. That's right. Nami used to earn money to save her hometown, and she left nearly 100 million berries to her hometown. So she just lent him this little money, but you have to pay me back 3 times as much. Before Zoro could be happy for a moment, Nami's eyes had turned into the shape of Bailey. You haven't changed at all. The corner of Zoro's mouth twitched. So, do you want to borrow it? I'm telling you, you can't default on the debt if you borrow it. Nami pulled Luen over and raised her little head proudly. With Luen backing her up, Nami is very confident. Luen looked at Nami with amusement as she turned into a little money grubber. I'll borrow it. In the end, Zoro chose to borrow from Nami's loan shark. Then I'm going shopping, Luen. After blackmailing Zoro, Nami looked at Luen with a smile on her face. Have fun. Luen left. Luen had experienced the horror of accompanying a girl shopping on Blue Star, and it was unbearable. Moreover, Luen has his own plans. I'll go see if there are any good ingredients, And there are so many beautiful sisters. Sanji was very serious in the first half of his sentence. But in the latter part, his eyes turned into a heart shape, and he quickly disappeared from the spot. That idiotic, lecherous Kappa. Zoro's mouth twitched as he watched Sanji disappear in the crowd. Well, Luen, I'll go buy some things too, goggles, and materials for making things. Usopp greeted him and also headed towards Road Town. Come on, Zoro, and do as I say. After watching all the people disappear, Luen looked at Zoro. Learn. The corners of Zoro's mouth curled up. Rodtown Naval Branch, Colonel's office. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Here, smoke filled the entire room, making it impossible to see what was going on inside. Bang. To read exciting novels, go to Falun Novel Network. The office door was opened in panic. Colonel Smoker. Something terrible is happening. A Marine rushed in, his face filled with horror. News came from headquarters that Straw Hat Monkey D. Luffy and his crew are heading to Rogue Town. Captain Straw Hat Boy Luffy, he is a pirate in the East China Sea with a bounty of 45 million Baileys. When the Marines said this, his forehead suddenly broke out in cold sweat and his face looked a little terrified. Among the Straw Hat pirates, there is also the King Luen, who has a bounty of 100 million berries. The Marine was sweating profusely and yelling loudly, trying to give himself courage in this way. 100 million Baileys. He had been in Rogue Town for so long, but he had never seen such a high bounty. This bounty is absolutely huge, even the Grand Line. 100 million? This is not a small roll, this bounty. A figure slowly emerged from the smoke. Colonel. They defeated Buggy the Clown and his gang, the Fishman Dragon and his gang, and King Luen even killed the Mouse Colonel from the 16th branch. He is a vicious pirate. The Marine noticed that Smoker's tone was so nonchalant, so he quickly shouted a reminder. Calm down. It's all your fault for yelling and failing again. Smoker stood up and opened the window to let the smoke out of the office. He is practicing the ability of the smoke fruit. So what did you mean? Smoker turned around. Headquarters said that the Straw Hat Pirates will arrive in Rogue Town today. The Marine stood at attention and saluted, but he couldn't hide the cold sweat on his forehead and the fear in his eyes. The great pirate with 100 million berries is about to land in Rogue Town. Don't panic. Since I came here, has any of the pirates who broke in here escaped? Request Flowers' Smoker put on his justice jacket and took a puff of his cigar. No. Looking at Smoker, the Marine swallowed his saliva, and his fear of the 100 million berries pirate also dissipated a little. Then calm down and don't disrupt my pace. Even if it's 100 million Baileys, it's the same. Smoker's confidence comes from the devil fruit he ate. Natural type, smoke fruit. In the town of Rogue, which has not yet entered the Grand Line, the natural element is an ability that the pirates are completely unable to resist. Even a pirate with 100 million berries is the same. Report. There is news that pirates have appeared in the port. Please go to the scene immediately. At this time, another Marine rushed in. It must be the Straw Hats. They broke in. The first Marine yelled, 45 million and another 100 million. I hope it's an interesting guy. Smoker walked outside. It's so expensive. The money I borrowed is totally not enough. Zoro and Luen came to a display window where knives were placed. Zoro looked at the knives in the display case and the corners of his mouth twitched. However, it was impossible for him to borrow money from Nami again. With triple interest, he simply can't afford to borrow more. But you can't enter the Grand Line with just a knife? Luen, do you have any extra money? Zoro looked at Luen beside him. Money? I'm not interested in money. Luen glanced at Zoro with a domineering arc at the corner of his mouth. So, you are... The corners of Zoro's mouth twitched even more violently. Not a cent. Luen spread his hands. I don't have any coins, so of course I'm not interested in money. Zoro covered his forehead and truly felt what it meant to be unable to make a hero fall for a penny. At this time, Luen raised the corner of his mouth and looked in another direction. I found the person I was looking for. It's so rude to call Colonel Smoker a monster. A female voice raised her voice. Shut up. Our leader was sent in by that bastard. We're going to throw your body in front of that bastard. The two pirates looked ferociously at the woman holding a knife opposite them. I understand. I will accompany you to the end. Dashiki said seriously. Huh? Ha ha. What can you, a woman, do? The two pirates laughed contemptuously. Go to hell. Then he swung the knife at Dashiki. Crack! When Zoro saw this, he immediately prepared to draw his sword. Zoro hates those who bully the weak the most. But the next moment, Luen. Zoro looked at Luen in surprise as he reached out to stop him. Just watch, that woman is not weak. Luen looked at Dashiki with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Zoro immediately looked at it intently. He knew that Luen had a power called observation haki, which allowed him to sense the aura of others. You can judge the strength of others from their breath. Puff, gather strength, bend down, and draw the sword. With a beautiful sword slash, the two pirates fell to the ground. Sharp! The crowd watching around suddenly burst into screams. Is it the power of observation haki? It's really amazing, seeing that just as Luen said, the woman in front of him easily killed the two pirates. Zoro sighed. Luen didn't explain and just looked at Dashiki with a smile. Call! Tashigi struck a beautiful sword-drawing pose, ready to receive it. Tashigi suddenly tripped over her left foot and fell headfirst without any warning, her glasses falling towards Luen and the other man. I really can't figure out whether she is strong or weak. The crowd watching suddenly laughed kindly. It hurts my eyes. Where are my glasses? Dashigi fumbled around on the ground. Here, your glasses. Luen picked up the glasses and handed them to Dashigi with a smile. Thank you so much. Dashigi looked up at Luen. Although she couldn't see Luen's face clearly, she smiled with gratitude. Kuina. The moment Zoro saw Tashigi's appearance, his pupils suddenly shrank, and he cried out in shock. This woman looks exactly like his dead childhood sweetheart. Kuina. Who is it? Dashigi took the glasses from Luen and put them on, saying curiously, I'm sorry, but this guy is a moron. Luen said with a smile. The corner of Zoro's mouth twitched. If the man with curly eyebrows said this, he would have fought with him long ago. But since Luen said so, he had no way of refutation. It's because he couldn't learn to be domineering under Luen's teaching. Thank you so much. I don't know how to thank you. Tashigi kept bowing in a silly and cute way. You're so polite. I just picked up your glasses. But if you can, could you do me a favor? Luen looked at the silly and cute Tashigi and smiled. Tashigi's performance in the early stages was that of a fool who could be exhibited in a museum. It turned out that he didn't know him. Why? Dashiki was a little confused. Post views. 3 sailing. Start by plundering the Koby entry. Chapter 55. So you guys are going to buy a knife? In Rogue Town, Dashigi was leading the way for Luen and Zoro. I just happened to be going to sharpen knife, but that's weird. Don't you already have a knife? Tashigi looked at Zoro curiously. He prefers to collect knives. Before Zoro could speak, Luen patted Zoro on the shoulder and smiled. Although Tashigi is silly and cute, it is easy to associate the swordsman who uses the 3-sword style in the East China Sea with Zoro. Luen, he still wants this silly and cute Tashigi to lead the way for him. Really? You like collecting knives too? Dashiki was suddenly a little surprised. Oh, you like collecting knives too? Luen smiled and asked knowingly. It's not that I like to collect them, but in this era, most of the famous swords have fallen into the hands of evil people. There are 12 skills of the Supreme Sharp Sword, 21 skills of the Great Sharp Sword, and 50 skills of the Good Sharp Sword. My dream is to take back all the famous swords in the world from the hands of those evil people, even if it costs my life. When Dashigi talked about her dreams, her eyes sparkled. It's an amazing dream. Luen looked at Dashiki with a smile on his face. Huh? Really? Dashiki was stunned, then excitedly grabbed Luen's arm. This was the first time her dream was recognized. Most people's reaction to hearing about her dream would be that she is just a woman and she is talking big like that. Even colleagues in the Navy, although they would not say it explicitly, revealed this in their expressions. Women are inherently weaker than men. Tashigi really wishes she were a man. Do you really think I can accomplish my dream? This was the first time that Tashigi met someone who recognized her dream. The look on her face was not one of politeness, but one of true recognition. Excited, Tashigi also longed for
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.